Good evening, everyone, wherever you're watching around the country or indeed the world, to the second round of the Automobilista Supercars Championship. It was a bizarre start to the championship 3 weeks ago when we kicked off in Adelaide with a crash fest in race 1 and the predominant majority of the race being run under caution conditions. The safety car was then switched off for the second race, which saw Jake Moloney take victory while Emree took first blood in race 1, both now tied for the lead of the championship. Tonight, a different challenge as we take on the Albert Park Grand Prix circuit for the Melbourne 200. My name's Stairs. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome Madbird to the commentary box. Good evening, Madbird.
Hey Stairs, thank you for having me back. I had a lot of laughs, a lot of fun with you at the with the Automobilista Australia Supercars. So I'm very much looking forward to this, the Australian Automobilista Supercars Championship. Name doesn't roll off my tongue yet, but it'll get there. It'll get there.
It will indeed. We mentioned actually at the beginning of the broadcast the tie in the points. So let's just have a quick look now at the points classification heading into round number 2. As we said, Jake Moloney and Emree with a first place and a third place each. They are tied on 279 points with Kurt Stenberg, a pair of second place finishes last round. He is just 3 points behind them, and the Emree absent tonight, that will certainly have an effect on that as we go through into the races tonight. Brody Steen in fourth place. Dane Warren had the pace last round, but just didn't quite put it together for 2 results. He probably should be a bit higher up than that. Corey Preston in 6th. Will Devonish and Osrob, good pairing there for War Race Engineering. Those two doing quite well in the Teams Championship, which we'll get to in a moment. Daniel Leckel in 9th place, and Scott Nolan repping Synergy Sim Racing rounds out the top 10.
Yeah, pretty tied up at the top between those three. Kurt Stenberg not winning any races, but with a very consistent round last time out, with 2 second place finishes, as he said. Getting on to the team points, Trans-Tasman Racing, of course, the leaders with both Emree and Kurt Stenberg. Emree with a win and Kurt with both of his second place finishes. They're on 555 points, which gives them just over a 200-point lead to War Race Engineering with Osrob and Will Devonish. 174 points apiece in each race. TTL Esports, with Jake Moloney's single win in 3rd place. Logitech G Altus Esports, which is Slam Blacklock and Dane Warren, they're in 4th. Race on Oz with Brody Steen in 5th. JMSR with Corey Preston in 6th. Team Highlands Racing 7th. Synergy Sim Racing 1 with Scott Nolan is in 8th. And Team 11 Aidan Schultz in 9th. And CRE Motorsport with Cam Rutledge rounds out the top 10, Stairs.
Very, very good indeed. So that is how the points stands for tonight. But of course, we had rather a messy race in Adelaide last time out, and there was a lot of penalties as a result of that. Let's head to our man on the ground, Matt Dunlop, with a report on the grid penalties that we're going to be seeing this round.
The first round of the Automobilista Supercars Championship was an incident-filled one, with 35 incidents across the 2 races investigated by the stewards. Of those 35 incidents, a total of 10 grid penalties have been handed out, ensuring race 1 in Melbourne will be an incredibly mixed-up grid. Embarrassingly for Colin Warwick and Kurt Stenberg, the 2 men who have put in the most work behind the scenes to get the series up and running, they lead the way with grid penalties, courtesy of high-profile Turn 4 incidents at the expense of Corey Preston, Jake Moloney and Dane Warren. Both Warwick and Stenberg will be desperate for clean races tonight from the midfield after both being penalised 5 grid places each, plus an additional 3-place penalty for Stenberg from the Dane Warren incident. Corey Preston received a 3-place grid penalty for an unsafe rejoin after getting caught out by slower traffic. RSM Latino tipped Sam Blacklock into a spin at turn 9 and also gets 3 spots. Eventual race 1 winner Emree attracted the attention of the stewards for contact with Dominic Ferraris. Aidan Schultz joins the 3-spot drop club for spinning Stephen Birchall's Mustang around at turn 4. And Scott Nolan was also in the stewards' naughty books for triggering this pile-up at turn 9. Race 2 saw a significant improvement of driving standards with just the 2 penalties awarded. This time Scott Nolan was on the receiving end of a bump at turn 9, Sam Blacklock earning a 3-spot demotion for this indiscretion. And finally, Ethan Warren will drop 3 positions for this high-speed rear-end collision with Hectic Hazard. The stewards have noted that the grid penalties handed out for this round were relatively small, as it was the first round of the season, but have warned that future infringements could result in more severe grid penalties or even point deductions. That's all for the previous round recap. Back to you, Stairs and Madbird, in the commentary box.
And there is a look at the penalties heading into this round, and of course, some of these drivers actually not here to take those penalties, including Corey Preston, Emree and Sam Blacklock. They head a list of drivers not here tonight, also including Rain Campbell, Aussie, Benjamin Smith, Dominic Ferraris and Jaden Draper. And of course those grid penalties will carry forwards into the next round which is in Tasmania.
That is a lot of penalties. I did catch some of the broadcast from last time out, and clean wasn't the word that came to mind, Stairs.
No, I think everyone was a bit antsy to get racing, really. There's a lot of anticipation going into the first round here, or first round last time out in Adelaide, and there's really not too many more difficult circuits to start than a tight, twisty street circuit like Adelaide.
Absolutely. We are hopefully going to have a cleaner race tonight. Would like to see, ideally less penalties than I have fingers handed out, but I guess it remains to be seen.
It indeed does. Let's have a quick look at the schedule going into tonight. Of course, just the 2 races, no shootout tonight, 2 10-minute qualifying sessions, and we're starting the night with a 13-lap sprint race, followed by a 25-lap race, which should include a pit stop, unless a lot of it is covered under the safety car. So I don't anticipate that being something that we see tonight.
Cross fingers.
Cross fingers, of course. Just a minute left in practice now. First real chance we've had to look at the times really in practice, and we're currently looking at the brother of the man who's topping the timesheets, Ethan Warren, on your screen for Astro Altus Esports. His brother Dane at the top of the timesheets with a 52.1, about 8/10 ahead of one of our debutantes in this series for tonight, Glenn Postlethwaite for Synergy Sim Racing.
Yeah, that's a pretty stonking lap, 152.1, sorry. About 8/10 faster than second place, with half as many laps. So I imagine everyone has been doing quite a bit of practice before tonight, Stairs. And indeed, I think they all had to set a certain time, to actually be eligible for tonight. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. There is a 107% rule in the booklet, I guess, the instruction manual for this particular series. Instruction manual is probably not the right term, is it, man?
The IKEA pamphlet, it's got the sad man looking at a box on the floor, yes. And that box says penalties.
That is one of the talking points, though. Well, the time was set actually at 2 minutes 0.5. If I can just find it in my paperwork there. They all had to set a specific time beyond within that in order to qualify for racing tonight, as it looks like the practice session is just timed to 0, so we're not too far away from qualifying.
So if they weren't able to set a time under 2 minutes and a half, 2 minutes and half a second, sorry.
That's it, yeah.
Then they would not eligible to race tonight.
That's exactly right. So they had to do that by Sunday night. So if that wasn't the case, then the stewards would be saying, no, you cannot race. And so as far as tonight's entry list, we've got, I believe, 34 entries, last I counted, out of a possible 35. And so far, we've
29
got 29
so far.
in. So they'll have to get in pretty quickly if they want to take part in qualifying. Otherwise, they will not be allowed to qualify.
That's still a pretty good turnout. To only be 5 short of the people that have signed up. I think you and me would both agree we've had experiences with people signing up for things and they're not turning up. To only be 5 short is pretty good. So looking like a pretty good field for tonight.
And good to see some new sign-ups. We've actually, ahead of round 1, we had something like 45 sign-ups. We're well over 50 now. and warm welcome to our new newbies for tonight. Not necessarily newbies in terms of sim racing, because a lot of these guys have come from the world of iRacing and the like. We mentioned Glenn Postlethwaite earlier. He's one of those newbies, and sitting in second on the timesheets as it stands. He's joined by Nigel Munif, David Nenedick, Adam Zeitinger for the Altus Esports team, Jay Borg, and Jeff Riley, Sean Allen, and a man who goes by the name of Brap.
Brap being a sound I would probably most associate with when you happen to pass wind while sitting on an airport plastic seat.
That's
hopefully,
very, very specific. Why is that so specific, I wonder?
I may have experience with the matter. It's hopefully his performance tonight will not be comparable to a fart on an airport seat.
Very, very good. Well, we haven't seen what he's capable of yet, and we're just looking at all the cars making their way down to the line. We've got Scott Nolan's wheels spinning. He appears to be suspended about 3 inches in mid-air with his wheels spinning. So and so too the car ahead, one of the black cars, which I can't identify from here. Oh no, we're up and running again. So that was a bit of a server glitch, I suspect. Whoever that black car is, he's jumped the gun on. Actually, the light's not gone green yet.
I believe there was. I had a glance over the driver's briefing. I believe there was something in there saying that you were not meant to leave your pit garage until the lights went green. So
you're absolutely correct.
That's not being observed by quite a few people. There's a queue of about, how many is that?
It's a lot. Basically, everyone you're looking at. Well, the light's gone green now, but essentially everyone who's already in the pit lane has disobeyed that particular rule. And I've got it here in front of me. It says,
including Kurt Stenberg.
Including Kurt Stenberg, who probably had something to do with writing that rule. But the rule said to stay in or pull just out of your garage spot until the green light comes on. Due to the high numbers, there will be traffic. If you're not on a lap, stay off the racing line. Well, that's an independent rule, independent of the one we were just talking about. But anyway, the qualifying session nonetheless has started.
Yes, and first car on track, legally or not, is currently David Nenedick.
We'll try to find him on the broadcast.
Do hope I'm pronouncing that correct. In a very plain black Ford Falcon.
There's an FGX Falcon, so he's one of the newbies for this round, and he's teamed up with Zach Baker, believe it or not, for Zach Baker Racing. It looks like they didn't have enough paint for the second car, because you find that Zach Baker's car is nicely kitted out with a new livery that it didn't have last round.
Yeah, David, good enough for an 8th place in practice, so not too shabby for a newbie, but as you said, newbies is probably the wrong term for some of these people who have been sim racing possibly for longer than I've been alive. So we'll get to see how they do when they're turning a lap in anger. Probably everyone wasn't going entirely hammer and tongs during practice.
Looks like just the one car currently in the pit lane, and that one is Nigel Munif. So there's going to be a huge amount of traffic, as David Nenedick has a bit of a moment coming out the final corner to start his lap. Let's jump on board now with David Nenedick as he heads down the main straight to begin the first qualifying lap of the second round of the Automobilista Supercars Championship. Very, very fast that first corner. Good overtaking opportunity, but another good opportunity actually for a crisscross. You get down the inside down here at turn 3. It funnels you in, and it's very easy to miss that braking point. And he's found the apex quite nicely down there. And then through the car park, turn 4 and 5. There's a lot of side-by-side action you see here in the real-life Supercars Championship. And I'm keen to see some of that tonight. As you head down to turn 6, this corner just sort of pinches on the exit and then opens out to the left. That's turn 7. You gotta, I wonder if they're flat in the supercars around here. Well, I reckon he might just have been. If there was a lift, it was a little one. And then a very, very sharp chicane here, turn 9 and 10. A little bit of a cloud of the curb. Get the power on as the wall comes towards you on the right-hand side. And then this curved straight as you contemplate turn 11 and 12. Very, very fast entry. And the exit is so, so important on the throttle as early as you possibly can. Bit of grass on the exit. Don't think that cost him too much. And the better you do that corner, the better you set up this wonderful overtaking opportunity down here at turn 13. And he's gone a bit wide there, and that's probably the first real mistake we've seen on this lap. Nearly takes out a brake marker board as he heads down to turn 14, which is a bit quicker, but you've got to kind of compromise your exit to set up for this very, very awkward hairpin at turn number 15, the penultimate corner. And then it's actually faster than it looks, this corner, the final corner, to get you back onto the main straight and finish a lap of the Albert Park Grand Prix circuit.
Beautifully done, Stairs, and David has set us a 155.4 for his first lap, with him having the fastest last sector. Kurt Stenberg on a bit of a flyer, fastest first sector, sorry, and Jake Moloney stealing the fastest second sector from Glenn Postlethwaite, who was hot on his heels. Glenn Postlethwaite goes fastest, as I say that, a 153.3. Dan Ackland second, a 153.7. Zach Baker third, a 153.9.
Kurt to the top by half a second there.
That is...
Jake Moloney surpasses him.
Good Lord. So the times are falling hard and fast here. David, who was briefly our pole sitter, down in 8th again where he was in practice. So incredible times.
So I just saw Ethan Warren having a bit of a moment coming out of the first corner. He's sat in 3rd place. So Jake Moloney from Kurt Stenberg, Ethan Warren in 3rd place. Where's Dane Warren? Haven't seen him set a time yet by the looks of it.
Doesn't appear to have set a time, and it looks as if Jake Moloney's had a big moment. He's spun and lost it into the wall, luckily after he set that blistering time that's put him on the top, but still, that's going to cost him a bit of time spinning it around if he's got damage. Hopefully not.
Just
Dane Warren.
He got up on the curb there. A little bit of lag. It's a little bit difficult to see, so the server is sort of showing some weirdness, but from what we could see of that replay, it appears that he just got up on that curb on the exit of turn 4, and that spat him into the wall.
Not ideal. Dane Warren is on his flying lap. He's just coming up to the first sector split now, so not sure why he was so delayed in starting his hot lap. Maybe had some dramas on his out lap. He's currently a 36.7, which is the fastest time by far in the first sector. So Dane Warren's time is going to be one to watch as he goes very wide through turn 7, I want to say, and goes through the quick left-right of the chicane.
Just looking at Dane Warren to see what he can do with this lap. It looks like maybe the server issues have just eased a little bit. As I say that, there's still a little bit of lag, so hopefully that can sort itself out fairly quickly, because it is producing some weird stuff, but at least we can see where the cars are. Quick flash of the lights from Dane Warren as he's got a bit of traffic, and Michael Ford jumps out of the way for him in the Nissan Altima, and that is something that was mentioned, as we said earlier in the driver briefing, in the notes before the race. It's very, very important for cars not on fast lap to jump out of the way if the leaders come through.
Dane Warren's got this. If he manages to get out of the last corner, he's at a blistering purple middle sector, 29.4, which is about 2 tenths faster than the next fastest. About to cross the line, and I think this is going to be our new pole sitter.
Oh! That's a lap time. He's gone more than a second faster than we didn't actually see that. Thomas McMillan jumped into provisional pole prior to that. Glenn Postlethwaite went up to what was second, now down to third, but Dane Warren has jumped all of them by some intense margin. He's the man who had the pace last round in Adelaide, and he appears to have it again here in Melbourne. 1.2
seconds his advantage over Thomas McMillan. That isn't that's a spanking in the old English.
Yes. I remember the old English well.
The very old English. Looks like as if he's abandoning that second lap, so maybe he only had fuel in it for one, but it appears that he only needed the one.
It does. Good to see Glenn Postlethwaite getting Synergy Sim Racing into the pit lane. So we will move on to whoever else is on. Jake Moloney is obviously finishing that lap as he's driven into the gravel trap. Interesting to see cars driving into the pits on their cool-down laps. I don't know whether that's a carryover from habits that they do in iRacing, but the rules did stipulate in Adelaide that they had to do that. In Melbourne, They're just required to get out of the way anywhere safe off the track, such as after turn 3, and then they're allowed to exit back to the pits so as not to impede anyone else. But interesting to see some people jumping in. Dan Ackland in the Synergy Sim Racing Mustang, which was white last round, now has a Synergy livery. He's jumped into the pit lane and basically just had a racing pit stop to come out and do some more lap times.
Nigel Marneef, Corey Ott and Dodger, the only 3 yet to set a lap time. Looks as if Corey Ott is out on track in Sector 1. Dodger has completed a first sector. It wasn't a time, it was about 20 seconds slower than the fastest first sector, so it certainly wasn't anything to write home about, but since has not completed that lap, and Nigel Marneef doesn't appear to have left the pits at all.
Yeah, Corey Ott probably the odd one out in the people you've just mentioned, because he is certainly a good peddler. He can drive a car fairly quickly indeed, as we found out last year in the Automobilista, Supercars, Porsche Cup, Formula 3, you name it, he was quick. And he's just... Oh, that's some lag. He's driving all the way through the wall into the spectators area on the exit of turn 10.
Yeah, it's not ideal. It looks like the server might be struggling a little bit. There is some issues with the cars just seem to be sort of floating through some of the corners. It comes and goes. Hopefully won't be affecting any of the races on the client side, obviously, because it's pretty hard to race close next to someone who's showing as sliding through the corner sideways.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit different for us as spectators. For the racers, the game will prioritise the cars that are around them, so it should hopefully be stable for them. But we are using a dedicated server for this, so we had a similar number of cars in the first round in Adelaide, and it wasn't too much of a problem. So hopefully it's just a one-off sort of thing, as Corey Ott, I should say, goes into 11th place.
There we go. So off the bottom 3, Nigel Marneef still not left the pits, and Dodger still not left the pits to actually complete a hot lap. So not sure.
Pit lane. Zach Baker in 10th. That's looking pretty good for him. Just looking at, he didn't actually make the start last round in Adelaide. He was in qualifying. And as far as I recall, he didn't qualify anywhere near that high. 17th and 19th his qualifying efforts.
Oh, the session's up.
So he's done pretty well. Yes,
wasn't
that's
even
time.
paying attention.
And Dane Warren is your pole sitter. Well, it wasn't really much of a contest, was it? He was up there. He set that lap time very early on, and he only did 4 laps, 2 of which I'm sure were in and out laps. And he only really needed 1 attempt, so 51.4. Thomas McMillan in 2nd, Glenn Postlethwaite in 3rd. That's very, very interesting from a championship point of view, because our championship leader in 4th place, and 3rd place man Kurt Stenberg in 6th. So and no Emree.
No Emree at all. Incredibly close, I will say, between 2nd and 3rd. Glenn Postlethwaite only 8 thousandths behind. Oh, as Jake Moloney has jumped up into 2nd place.
Oh,
we're still on a hot lap.
Should have been on that, so beg your pardon for missing that. And that is actually, that's very important, because Jake Moloney is one of the guys who's not carrying a grid penalty from the antics last round.
I want to say that Kurt Stenberg has 8 grid places.
He does. And,
so he will actually be starting from 14th.
So that's a fair old thwack for him. Dane Warren is the Warren brother who didn't have any penalties. It was Ethan Warren who will carry a 3-place grid penalty. Dane Warren will start from pole because he doesn't have any penalties, and so to Jake Moloney. So that is your front row that will be unmolested for the start of this race.
Ideal.
Unlike my choice of words just then.
As I was saying before Jake shocked me, Glenn Postlethwaite only 8 thousandths behind Thomas McMillan, so I expect a pretty tight race between 3rd and 4th. And 2nd, Jake Moloney, better part of 9/10 still down on Dane Warren. So I have a feeling we might see what we've seen before. certainly what we saw in the Automobilista Australia Supercars, where Dane Warren sort of shoots off to an unsurmountable lead, and hopefully doesn't put it in the wall.
Well, it's interesting. We saw a good battle developing between Dane Warren and Jake Moloney in race 2 of the previous round in Adelaide, which was scuppered by an incident in the pit lane for Dane Warren. No pit stops in this first race tonight, so that's one less obstacle for him to overcome.
And it does help. It seems like a silly thing, but entering and exiting the pit lane can sometimes be the most dangerous part of the race, depending on what's happening as you're coming in and as you're exiting.
Absolutely, and especially with so many cars in this series, the pit lane can get quite busy, especially if you've got a narrow pit window. And also, a lot of these guys coming from iRacing, so it can sometimes be a bit of a challenge for them to remember that you can't drive through other cars in the pit lane, which is what happened in the first round, as people tried to drive through the other cars, which they can do in iRacing, but Automobilista does not let you do that.
Yeah, no, there's no ghosting as it was in Automobilista, whereas iRacing just likes to make it that little bit simpler for you, I guess, which is odd for a simulator game, I would have thought. Nigel Munneef is out on track doing some warm-up laps, so not sure if missing qualifying was intentional, but he will be starting from 28th on the grid in the car sales Nissan Altima.
Yes, well, the other thing that will be happening right now is they will be amending the grid manually with those grid penalties that we mentioned earlier, so that gives us a little bit of a chance to catch our breath, have a bit of a break before the first race, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes' time with race 1 here in Melbourne. Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us wherever you're watching around the country or indeed the world. We're here in Kota, Monaco, Sydney, Imola, Shanghai, Albert Park, Austria, Suzuka.
Down the inside of Pablo, and there's been contact.
Spun out already.
They've had the double stack.
Tyres that you could dig them up and look at them on the fossil record.
So,
it's Usain Bolts of hairpins.
It's missing a rear tyre. Welcome to the previous round recap brought to you by Apex Rear Wing. Qualifying for the first race in Adelaide was tightly contested and saw Jake Moloney steal pole position from Dane Warren in the final stages.
Will he jump up into pole position? Yes, he does by 3.5 hundredths of a second. Jake Moloney is your provisional pole sitter.
But race 1 itself turned into a mixture of demolition derby,
Huge crash, this is disastrous.
and orderly procession. Pit stops scattered the order, with much of the race being run behind the safety car.
That means we're about to go racing.
Controversy in the closing stages as early race leader Dane Warren was T-boned by Kurt Stenberg on the run up to turn 4.
And that is another safety car.
Staying out of trouble was Emily Jones, who drew first blood, leading home a TTR 1-2 ahead of Jake Moloney in third.
A very, very bizarre race. 3 fantastic restarts and she's your race winner.
The safety car was disabled for race 2, allowing a more natural race to develop. Dane Warren took pole in the shootout by a whopping 0.3 of a second.
Does it with the exact same time that got him through into the shootout.
Jake Moloney piled on the pressure, and while Warren was busy trying not to crash into a stricken backmarker, Moloney took the lead.
Oh, big moment there, so that's a change for the lead.
Warren fought back, and the race looked set to go to the line until a disastrous pit stop dropped him down the order.
Yeah, so everyone here forgetting that you can't drive through cars in the pit lane.
Moloney took a comfortable victory from Kurt Stenberg and race 1 winner Emily Jones.
Welcome back, everyone, to the second round of the Automobilista Supercars Championship. Confirmation there of our next round in 2 weeks' time, coming to you from Symmons Plains in Tasmania. But before that, a pair of races to get us going tonight, a sprint race and a pit stop race. And there's just 20 seconds remaining in the warm-up session before we head into the race session.
Yeah, it's building. As you said, they're probably trying to figure out where everyone should actually be starting, taking into account the penalties and such. But I'm looking forward to that front row Dane Warren and Jake Moloney, both with blistering times, battling into turn 1. I think will be interesting. The start will mean quite a lot.
It certainly will. It will be good to see a continuation of the battle that we saw last round, because we didn't get to see how that ended. It just it turned into a bit of an easy win for Jake Moloney after the problems that Dane Warren had. Not that Jake Moloney would have been complaining too much about that. And in the end, those problems for Dane Warren dropped him well down the order. He didn't even finish on the podium.
That's something that we've seen happen to Dane Warren previously. He doesn't seem to have that switch to sort of go into go easy mode. He seems to just be pedal to the metal the whole time, regardless of whether he's got someone right up his ass or if he's 40 seconds up the track, and it often leads to him encountering parts of the track that you generally don't want to encounter, such as walls.
Yes, walls tend to be pretty. Trying to think of the adjective, detrimental to a good race.
Undesirable?
Undesirable, yeah, they are the undesirables, the walls, aren't they, in terms of your proximity to them, if you do hit them. But yes, it was both Warren brothers actually had a few unwanted meetings with the wall in the previous round, so they'll be hoping for something less than that in this round, and the wall's a little bit further away, not too much. It's still technically a street circuit as they use public roads, but perhaps it'll be a touch easier for them this round, and they'll if that 110% sort of attack mode attitude that they bring to everything that they seem to compete in will probably come to the fore.
Do I hope so. Looks as if we're just waiting on some of the grid slots to be switched around and confirmed. And we've lost Brody Steen. Looks as if his game has crashed. Not sure if we're going to... Yeah, that's bad luck. I'm not sure if we're going to wait for them to... Oh, and we've got a huge amount of position changes server side. So looks as if the shuffle is occurring. People moving all over the place. Hopefully, Brody Steen will be able to get back in.
And this was what was gonna. This is always going to be quite confusing. This particular one. Good thing we get this out of the way in race 1. None of these carry over to race 2. But the 8 positions for Kurt Stenberg. Colin Warwick will have a 5-position penalty. Corey Preston will have to wait until Tasmania to take his 3-position grid penalty, as he's not here tonight. RSM Latino. Emree, another absentee, will take her penalties in the next round. Aidan Schultz with 3, Scott Nolan with 3, Sam Blacklock with 3, he isn't here tonight as well, and Ethan Warren with 3.
Absolutely, but it looks like we're all set to go. Race session has started, so everyone will be wanting to get out onto the pit lane, onto the start-finish straight. Dane Warren leading us off stairs.
Yes, and he's one of only a few cars left to grid up. And there we go. We've got our full grid, or our full front row. Still a couple of positions left to populate. And a big grid, 29 cars. We'll have to get through them pretty quickly as they go through their warm-up lap shortly.
Looks as if Brody Steen did manage to get back in, so that's good for him. 6th position. Starting in 6th. Definitely doesn't guarantee 6th position at the end of the race, but...
Yeah, he was one of the main beneficiaries of all the grid penalties. He qualified 9th.
Definitely. So you can hear the engines all revving. I think they're about ready to go.
Yeah, well, you can see the impatience in the way that the cars are just sort of moving a little bit as they rev engines. Dane Warren's missed the green light to start the warm-up lap, as Jake Moloney had to sort of prompt him by just sort of going, "Come on, are you coming?" Well, there is Dane Warren in the Logitech GL to Z Sports with the teal-coloured mirrors. Behind him, Jake Moloney starts out of 2nd place, and he leads the championship. He will probably not want to be doing anything too silly with that, but he'll definitely want to go for the win as well. Thomas McMillan starts out of 3rd place, OPR. One of my favourite liveries, that one. Looks very, very nice indeed. Glenn Postlethwaite, Synergy Sim Racing in 4th place. Behind him, Dan Ackland for the newly liveried Synergy Sim Racing Mustang. A very unique car, that one. Brody Steen, new livery for him this week, actually. Race on Oz. Had the WPS livery last week. Last round, I keep saying last week. The WPS, We Produce Safety Cars livery in Adelaide. Shame not to see that one in anger again, but I'm sure we'll see it maybe later on for comedic reasons. Zach Baker, good qualifying session for him, up to 7th. Of course, there were grid penalties, but he was very, very quick in qualifying. Corey Ott starts out of 8th place. He did a good job as well. David Nenadick up in 9th place, another one of our first races in this particular series. Ethan Warren out of 10th, probably would have been expecting to start a little bit higher than that for Astro Altus Esports. Sean Allen, the second race on Oscar, good job from him, starting out of 11th place ahead of Stephen Birchall in the Monster Mustang. Colin Warwick down there in 13th place, hit hard with those grid penalties. Behind him, Kurt Stenberg also hit hard with the grid penalties with 8 positions, dropping to 14th, as you said earlier, Madbird. Osrob out of 15th place. A new livery for the War Race Engineering guys. Looks fantastic. I hope they keep it. Will Devonish in 16th place, just behind his teammate Adam Zeitinger. First race for him in the season for Astro Altus Esports. Michael Ford in the Nissan Altima starts out of 18th ahead of Jay Borg. Hope to see a Penrite livery on that black ZB Commodore very, very shortly. Cam Rutledge in the VF starts in 20th place ahead of Scott Nolan. Not sure what happened to him in qualifying. Brap in VIP Pet Foods car in 22nd place ahead of Stenny. Oh, Dodgers just had a big accident on the warm-up laps, lighting his rear tyres up, and there's going to be big damage on that one. So he's just a few cars back where we're looking at a claim by Nigel Manif, the unfortunate Dodger. Looks like he's been sampling the product made by his main sponsor there. Crashing on the warm-up lap. There's a lot of smoke. That's going to be a handful.
Yeah, that
Aiden
is not
Schultz,
turning very well.
Not at all. Aiden Schultz, 27th. RSM Latino in 28th. Termo in 29th, and that's your grid.
Yeah, so it looks like Dodgers sort of thrown away his or her chances before we've even started. Car is locking up heavily on the rear left, going in under braking. Yeah,
that's a bit disastrous. I will be surprised. He's going to have to be very, very cautious into turn 1, like Daniel Ricciardo was in last week's Grand Prix, because his car's not going to brake like it should. But anyway, the lights are on. We're about to get racing here in Melbourne for the Melbourne 200. The second round of the Automobilista Supercars Championship is go. Good start from Jake Moloney, gets the jump, and Thomas McMillan looking down the inside of Dane Warren, who went nowhere off the start, may well lose 2 positions, but he swoops around the outside and hangs on to it. Thomas McMillan in 3rd place, drops back a couple of car lengths, and look at this. Dane Warren having a go, attacking Jake Moloney back straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. Some intense, close stuff right up the top. Glenn Postlethwaite also saying, look, don't forget that I'm here, fellas, as there's about a cigarette paper's width between Dane Warren and the cars in front of and behind him. Meanwhile, behind them, Brody Steen has lost out to, he attacked Dan Ackland, nearly got the position done going into turn 3, but couldn't quite, so he has dropped back down to 6th. And apart from that, there is very, very close there between Zach Baker and David Nenadick. And Ethan Warren up into 9th place. He is making good his start.
He certainly is. Oh, a bit of lag, a huge amount of lag there. Oh, and hopefully that lag hasn't caused that accident, but that was Zach Baker, I believe, someone going into the rear of him. Huge lag problems. There's a mirror somewhere on the exit of turn 10, but goodness knows where it actually is. So we really hope that the drivers aren't seeing what we're seeing, because that's going to make it very, very, very difficult to see. Oh, Dane Warren off the track at turn 11, turn 12, beg your pardon, gets back onto it under huge pressure from Thomas McMillan. A little bit of breathing space for Jake Moloney, but not much.
Not much at all. He gave up about a 10th, and I think he's gained that 10th back pretty much immediately. So Dane Warren, obviously with an incredible amount of pace here. Jake Moloney goes a tiny bit wider than him through that corner, but it looks as if he's managing to hold on to it, just putting the car in the right places to stop Dane from having too much of a look. Again, a bit of lag there. It looks as if Zach Baker has rejoined back in 19th, so I imagine that's going to get looked at. Yeah.
That's a real shame because he was doing so well after qualifying so well, and it all comes undone on the first lap. And one wonders whether Ethan Warren can be blamed for that. If he was seeing what we were seeing, it would have been very, very difficult. Look, Dane Warren going down the inside of Jake Moloney, down at turn 3. This is very, very tricky conditions, and Thomas McMillan and that's a big problem there for Glenn Postlethwaite. We've got Thomas McMillan on the infield rejoining at turn 3. This is undrivable. If they're seeing this, there's masses of cars off at turn 3. This is disastrous.
We've got to hope that this isn't what they're saying, because they are barely visible on the track itself at the moment. They're going all over the place. Ethan Warren is off. I don't even know what's going on stairs.
You and me both. Ethan Warren seems to have recovered, but he's lost the position to Brody Steen, who's up there in 3rd place. Glenn Postlethwaite's dropped down to 15th in that. Just trying to see where our other... the cars... Jake Moloney's down in 18th, so it's just cycling through. Now he's back in 1st. That's a timing glitch that I'm looking at. So what's going on here? Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, it looks as if it might have smoothed itself out. I'm watching him make the corner, and he isn't sliding all over the place. So, looks like we might be okay to continue watching, let alone racing in, if that's what that was saying. Though it's happening again a little bit.
Yeah,
but Jake Moloney, regardless, has still got the 1st position over Dane Warren.
It is very, very trying conditions because this is unprecedented. We didn't really see this happen last round at all. If anything, the driving was the problem last round. Tonight, it's not the driving so much as the server. So, how are they going to handle it?
Looks as if we've also lost Corey Ott. Not sure what happened, but he is a DNF. So, not sure if that was during the lag. If indeed, as we keep saying, we don't know what they're seeing on their side. They could possibly have no issues whatsoever. But if they're seeing what we're seeing, it's incredible that only one person has DNF'd out of the race.
Well, let's split the field up a bit. We have this battle for the lead that we were hoping for with Jake Moloney and Dane Warren, but and we've unfortunately lost Glenn Postlethwaite and Thomas McMillan out of that battle. Thomas McMillan dropped to 7th, incidentally. Glenn Postlethwaite was not so lucky. Dan Ackland now up into 3rd place. You can see him just in the back. I think you can see him in the background. She's about 5 seconds behind there in 3rd place. And Ethan Warren hanging on to 4th as it stands.
Glenn Postlethwaite's still 3rd on track, but not according to the timing screen. So I'm not sure what's happened there, if he's missed like a marshalling post or something like that.
I did think that looked like a ZB rather than a Ford Mustang, so it was a Synergy Sim racing car regardless, so you do make a valid point.
Yeah, that is still him on track in that position, but yeah, he's showing up as 26th on the timing, so I'd say that's some sort of strange, some sort of glitch where he's missed a timing post, maybe gone off the track, and the game has decided that he has not completed that lap as a result, which, if that is the case, is horribly frustrating because he is doing quite well to still be keeping vaguely in touch with Dane Warren and Jake Moloney ahead of him.
Yeah, and we're still seeing the timing go up and down very, very sporadically. So it's a little bit difficult to trust those. We're just going to sort of trust our eyes as it stands right now. Jake Moloney, the man lady, he's pulled out a little bit of a gap now on... Oh, that's wide. And now, is it actually wide, or is that just server lag? It appears to be server lag, as he's still got a similar margin to what he had prior to that little moment that we just saw. I guess this is a new series, so we're going to have these sorts of teething problems as we try and smooth everything out. A lot of work going into this series. Ben Rhodes, our commentator from round 1, mentioning in the live chat that there might be some weather affecting it. We're not actually, we're not sure right at this moment where the server is being hosted. In terms of which city, but maybe they're dealing with some weather or something like that could be causing these problems that we're seeing right now.
I will say the pings that I'm seeing on all of the cars are in the vicinity of 500 milliseconds plus, which is a considerable amount. They're sort of all dropping down now that I'm looking at them. There are still some up in the 700s, 800s. They were over 1,000 just a moment ago, so it could be that it is improving.
Well, let's hope. It certainly seems to have got a little bit better after that first lap. It was almost undrivable on the second lap when the cars were all bunched up. It seems to have improved a little bit, but nonetheless we are still seeing a lot more lag than we should.
Seems like Glenn Postlethwaite has been shuffled back up the order to third, so that was just a temporary issue due to lag, I suppose, but he is in third position ahead of Dan Ackland.
And for Dane Warren in second place, by the way.
Absolutely. It doesn't appear to be helping him. He still hasn't managed to get past Jake Moloney. We're almost halfway through this sprint race now.
Ooh, that was a bit of a look there. Sorry to cut across you. Just saw the timing, and I know that's not really much of an indicator, but the timing dropped down to 1/10 of a second. Dane Warren had a look at turn 3.
It looked as if he forced Jake Moloney a little bit wide through turn 3, and then tried to get a wider entrance into turn 4. But still hasn't managed to. They're still about as close or far as they were. Oh, I'm not sure. Again, Jake Moloney sliding all over the place. Don't know if that's actually happening or not.
They both look like they went well deep at turn 6, but then they emerged back on the racetrack. With more or less the same sort of margin. I think Jake Moloney pulled out a few car lengths there. He's just relentlessly quick. It seems like Dane Warren may well have the pace over one lap, but Jake Moloney just continues to consistently bang out those laps, and Dane Warren sort of drops back, catches up, drops back, catches up again.
Yeah, well, it's the old adage, it's one thing to catch, it's very much another to overtake. It looks as if he's going to have a go here. He's well down, he's well late on the brakes. That's incredibly deep.
Oh, not made the corner there. That's not lag.
Not going to happen at any point. Glenn Postlethwaite, though, is going to be the beneficiary. He is right behind Dane Warren now. It's falling 7/10 now. That was over a couple of seconds just a moment ago. So, I get a frustration, I'm imagining, in the cockpit there of Dane Warren's Mustang. Just wanted to get the move done and just waited that little bit too long to brake and flew off the corner.
Yeah, it looked like he was setting up for the classic turn 13 out-braking manoeuvre, but he left that very, very, very late indeed, and it didn't work at all. Jake Moloney was very, very calm in that exchange. He just sort of he left the inside open for Dane Warren, knew there was less grip on the inside, took his normal line and said, "See you later, mate," when Dane Warren went flying off into the gravel trap.
Yeah, he did pull off the outbraking maneuver at turn 13 to some extent. It was just that the only person he outbraked was himself.
He was ahead for a small period of time.
He was. He did take the lead briefly. He's now setting about closing that gap down, but it is ballooned from about 0.3 to 2.1 seconds. So he'll be spitting chips in that helmet.
Well, he set the fastest lap of the race with a 52.3, and that is around about 0.3 of a second faster than Jake Moloney's fastest lap of the race. So if he can continue to put in those sorts of lap times, he will haul in that 1.9 second margin. We're only halfway through the race, haven't quite actually made it to the half distance mark yet. We'll probably have just now, since we're more than halfway through the 6th lap. But you said Glenn Postlethwaite was the beneficiary of Dane Warren's incident. He's probably now a little bit close. As I say this, my comment is becoming not true, but I was going to say Glenn Postlethwaite a little bit closer to Dane Warren than Dane Warren was to Jake Moloney, but in the last few sentences of mine, Dane Warren has clawed back a couple of tenths.
Yeah, Glenn has been dropping back. He, when Dane Warren took the track, that's not when he rejoined the track. Sorry. It was 0.7 ahead of Glenn Postlethwaite. It's now ballooned out to 2 seconds. So Dane obviously with a lot of pace, and as he sets the fastest lap of the race thus far, he's obviously a man on a mission. 1 minute and 4 tenths. 1.4 seconds would be the normal way of saying that. Away from Jake Moloney now.
Yes. Glenn Postlethwaite and Dan Ackland doing a good job for Synergy Sim Racing, having a bit of a race on their own, but behind them there is a massive scrap going on over 5th place, with Ethan Warren ahead of Brody Steiner, Thomas McMillan having an absolute ding-dong battle down into turn 3. Thomas McMillan, oh, there's contact there with Dodger being lapped by the looks of it, and Dodger probably carrying a fair bit of damage from that warm-up lap crash that we saw him have at the start of the race.
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't be helping. He's sort of been limping around. He's now 3 laps down on the leaders. Ethan Warren with a shocking exit. Brody Steen and Thomas McMillan both swoop past, so he's lost 2 positions in 1 corner. He's going to want to get those back quick smart, as Thomas McMillan was up fighting for the podium positions and is probably feels like he's not in the position he should be down in 5th. Brody Steen still in 6th. Which sounds like he hasn't made much progress, and indeed in positions he hasn't. But considering the pressure in and around him, he's doing quite well to hang on.
That he is, Brody Steen. He was one of the guys to have a pretty clear night in Adelaide, and he's, despite being in the thick of the action, tends to keep his nose pretty clean from what we've seen so far. 5th and a 6th place finish in Adelaide, and that was good enough to put him up in 4th in the points, so you know that you're a consistent driver when the position you are in the championship is higher than any race positions you've had.
Absolutely. Looks as if he's losing out to Thomas McMillan a little bit there. Just over a second now, the gap, as the gap out and the lead is down to 6/10. So Dane Warren closing back down on Jake Moloney, which I'm sure Jake won't be too happy about. Glenn Postlethwaite, a distant memory, 3.5 seconds behind in 3rd place, but still holding on to that last podium position.
He certainly is, and he's doing a good job, so one would expect him to finish in that position if nothing disastrous happens, but he is in a very, very good position to capitalise. If these two tangle with each other, he could take an opportunistic win, which is certainly not something that we're not used to seeing, to use a double negative.
Well, speaking of tangles, down in 11th position, the battle for 11th between Aidan Schultz, Scott Nolan, and Jay Borg is about as tight as the battle for 5th was, then this time last lap. Aidan Schultz just managing to get past Scott Nolan in turn 3, and now Jay Borg putting him under all sorts of pressure. And Adam Zeitinger is joining in on this as well in the Astro Esports.
Yeah, that's great battles going on down in the midfield, and the server, just for the time being, seeming to behave itself. It'd be nice if it would stay like that. But great respect being given there between Adam Zeitinger and Jay Borg, and Michael Ford is eyeing this up with his lips firmly being caressed by his tongue.
What an interesting sentence.
Yeah, so I should have thought of a less strange way to say that, but he is absolutely... Well, look, he's going to go down the inside at turn 13. If Jay Borg
can he get 2 positions done?
This is what we saw Dane Warren do, and he's gone off the track just like Dane Warren did. It is so hard to pull it up down there into turn 13.
And he's got to be careful, because right behind him is Dave Nanandic, and right behind Dave Nanandic is Zach Baker recovering to 17th.
Oh, so, that's a late move there from Jay Borg. Bit of contact there. He lets Michael Ford go. You're right. Zach Baker recovering from that awful start where he got punted down there at turn 10. Still in 17th place, but there's a lot of positions up for grabs here.
Just to draw our attention back to the front for a second, Dane Warren is now 1/10, one solitary 10th behind Jake Moloney, heading up to the tight right-hander. That is incredibly close. I don't know how they're not touching.
I think they are. Oh, they're gone. They're back. They're gone. They're back.
Oh, they're gone, and they're back, and they're gone, and they're back.
They were bump drafting a little bit there into the braking zone. The timing was kind of irrelevant, wasn't it?
It kind of was. They were when your cars are actually connected, it doesn't really matter how far behind the person you are. Huge accident for Dave Nanandic. He has gone around. He is back down into 19th place. He's sliding along that wall. Looks as if his battle with Michael Ford and Adam Zeitinger did not end end as he would have liked it.
Oh, just catching the replay. He's done it all by himself in front of Will Devonish, who did he escape without damage? He just went wide at that very, very tricky part of the racetrack down at turn 5. And it's surprising that you would have thought, given the battle pack that he was in, that that would be a crash that was assisted by someone else, but he somehow has managed to crash all by himself in that battle.
Meanwhile, Adam Zeidinger, who he was battling with, has lost the position to Zach Baker, who's on a bit of a charge back up into 15th. I believe he dropped down to 20th when he had his accident, so he's doing quite well.
Good stuff.
Absolutely. And Thomas McMillan all over the back of Kurt
Warren
Stenberg.
Somewhere. Ethan Warren down to 4th place. Let's try and catch that on the replay.
Dane Warren, you mean?
Beg your pardon, Dane Warren. Ethan Warren is just ahead of Ethan Warren, and Glenn Postlethwaite, the beneficiary of that, up into 2nd place, trying to catch a replay. What have you seen, Madbird?
And then while you're doing that, Ethan Warren has had a moment and has DNF'd, gone back to garage, so he has gotten well out of his brother's way, probably not in the way that he would have intended to do so. And he's out of this race, so we are down to a solitary Warren, and that is Dane.
Unbelievable stuff. So just when you thought the fortunes were going in favour of one Warren, they go in favour of another Warren. But we still have no Warrens on the podium. Dane Warren was looking like he was at least a good chance of a podium, if not a victory. Now he's down there in 4th place. He's got a lot of work to do to catch up to and pass Dan Ackland. Does he have any damage? It was very, very difficult to see what the cause was of that accident. It was down there at his favourite corner, turn number 13. And we saw Dodger emerging from the gravel trap at the same time. Not sure if that was related. Don't want to apportion any blame to anyone that I haven't seen any evidence of, but he was there at the scene of the crime. Is he a suspect, Madbird?
Very possibly. Could have been he is carrying a lot of damage, so might have been struggling to get out of the way. But all this has meant that Synergy Sim Racing are suddenly looking at 2nd and 3rd on the podium, and if Jake Moloney makes an error up ahead, then they could potentially be looking at a race win.
And they're probably a bit disappointed that it's not their first team. Scott Nolan down there in 10th place, and Andy Simpson, the representatives of Synergy Sim Racing 1, split up by Pit Garage. Glenn Postlethwaite and Dan Ackland representing their 2nd effort.
And much like when Toro Rosso beat Red Bull in Formula 1, the child team, as it was, is currently beating the parents.
Well, it's a race of attrition, it's fair to say. So if you just get the points, you never know. You're still in the race. You might find yourself up there with a decent result.
Very potentially. Looks as if there is some funniness going on again with the server, but we'll move on. 2 laps to go once Jake Moloney finishes this lap. So he's basically been untouchable this race, and he's been unflappable is another word I would use to describe him. Very calm, just keeping on his line, putting his car in the right spots through the apexes to stop Dane Warren from being able to mount a charge. And all this has meant that Dane Warren, he's gotten frustrated, and twice he's made fairly costly errors.
Yeah, and Jake Moloney is on target to take a handy chunk of points, extending his championship lead with Emily not here. Kurt Stenberg starting from 14th up to 6th place. It's a good effort for him in this race, but he will throw away a chunk of points to Jake Moloney, who will be pretty happy with this race. Bit of contact there, actually, with Kurt Stenberg, trying to get some more positions as some lap runners jump out of the way. Acclaim Bite and RSM Latino. As Thomas McMillan has a huge moment out of the final corner. Is Kurt Stenberg close enough to capitalise?
Yeah, I was about to say when you drew attention to them that this is currently the closest battle on track. There was less than a 10th separating them, and it looks like a contact again. Kurt is... No, not again. Kurt has hit Thomas McMillan going through turn 1. Thomas McMillan in the wall, down to 8th position from recovering up to 5th. He'll be quite annoyed, I would imagine. And all this has meant that Brody Steen is suddenly all over the back of Kurt Stenberg and possibly looking at, well, I would say for sure looking at a 5th position.
The last thing Kurt Stenberg wants is more grid penalties because it hampers his charge. Started fairly high up in last week's races and finished 2nd in both. Today's been a bit of a recovery effort, but was he pushing just a little bit too hard? It's gained him a position, at least from a points point of view, but it may mean that he's starting a bit further back in the next round. Not over yet.
There are no result penalties as it was, so there's no he drops 3 positions in this race results or anything like that. It's all for the following race.
Well, I believe there was discussion of points penalties if required, as Dane Warren gets a drive-through penalty, so it's probably for extending the track limits. They did alter this track so that it was a little bit less harsh on track limits, but Dane Warren finding the limit of the track limits, even though they've been extended. Interesting.
Colin Warwick managing to get past Brody Steen down into turn 13. He's taken 6th position and now he's setting off after Kurt Stenberg. Although Brody Steen not letting up, so very tight little battles in the midfield this race. It's been good to watch.
It has, and there's only a lap to go actually as we're watching Dane. Dane Warren will probably not take his penalty in the race. He'll let the game do that, as it'll add a time penalty at the end. Jake Moloney just coming up to turn 3 now, and just like the second race in Adelaide, is more or less untouchable. 5 seconds ahead of Glenn Postlethwaite.
Yeah, definitely untouchable. Good word for it. He hasn't really been, blisteringly quick. Dane Warren has had his measure in pace, but just positioning that car absolutely to perfection, not allowing any room to get past, and that's all you got to do is just put the car where your opponent doesn't want it to be, and Dane Warren now, after looking like he was battling for the lead for the entire race, and his brother Ethan Warren looks as if the podium, much like the rabbits in Watership Down after they leave their original Warren, podium will be Warrenless.
Yeah, it certainly will be. He's in fact going to drop, I'm just going to blow past that. He's going to drop a lot of positions with Kurt Stenberg, Colin Warwick and Brody Steen all occupying almost the same second. He's going to lose all those positions, probably more. Thomas McMillan is... Thomas McMillan is probably out of range of a drive-through penalty, but 3-position drop, that's going to push Kurt Stenberg up into 4th, pending anything happening to him. But Jake Moloney, he likes the orange number, and he's going to keep it for the next round if he continues doing this tonight. It matches his livery. He's your winner in race 1, our first back-to-back winner in this particular championship. Well done, Jake Moloney and Glenn Postlethwaite. Great job, 2nd place in his first race in this championship. For Synergy Sim Racing, their first podium. Looks like Dane Warren got past Dan Ackland in the end, but he won't sit on the podium because of that drive-through penalty. And what's going on there? We're looking at the wrong cars. So that's your podium. Synergy Sim Racing 2-3. And behind them, Kurt Stenberg picks up 4th place, up 10 positions off the start, and Colin Warwick up 8.
Absolutely. Very good finish there for Kurt Stenberg. We'll probably be looking at a penalty, I would imagine, for that contact with Thomas McMillan. Colin Warwick, though, also heavily penalised before this race, up into 5th, so good result for him. But as we say, excellent. And Brody Steen, in fact, finishes in 6th. Having started in 6th, but considering the cars around him dropping off like flies, he's done quite well to maintain that position.
A good run for Scott Nolan up to 8th place. He gained 2 positions in the last few laps of that race, so after starting a fair way back, not sure what happened to him with qualifying, but 8th place is a good race finish considering where he started, and he finished ahead of Aiden Schultz in 9th, and Sean Allen, another one of our first-time drivers in this series. He rounds out the top 10.
Zach Baker managed to recover to 14th from about 20th or 21st, I think. So good effort for him. And we've got our 3 DNFs of Ethan Warren, Brapp, who ended up his performance ended up being quite like a fart on an airplane seat, and Corey Ott. Our 3 DNFs. Dodger 4 laps down, still finishing the race. with that damage in the warm-up lap. I imagine he'll be on tiptoes during the warm-up lap for race 2, Stairs.
Well, one would hope so, for his sake, if nothing else. Now, the drivers were briefed about lining up for a photo in the pit lane. Looks like Jake Moloney didn't get that memo. He's gone straight back to the pits and is probably already preparing for race 2.
Probably. Glenn Postlethwaite and Dan Ackland appear to have gotten the memo. They're heading around. Glenn Postlethwaite with a lot of wiggling to celebrate his result, and I mean, why wouldn't you, with being a first-time racer in the series and getting a second position? Excellent work.
Most certainly is. Well, that's a sprint race. We've still got a whole feature race left to go tonight.
That felt like a feature to me, Stairs. That felt like you look at you look at the back of your DVD box, and it says special features. One of them is the main feature. This ended up being the special. This is the commentary track, and we've still got to watch the movie.
Yes. Well, one of the features of that race was lag, and we certainly hope that's a feature that doesn't continue to feature.
Absolutely. It did settle down towards the end, it did. Which made it a lot easier to commentate, let's say, because good lord, trying to commentate when cars are all over the place is tricky, even for professionals, and I do use the word professional wrongly, like us.
Yes. Well, I'm gonna let that one go through to the keeper. We're gonna go into qualifying quite shortly for race 2. Now we saw a fantastic pole lap in the previous.
Sorry to cut across you. They are resetting the server by the looks of it to hopefully fix any lag issues. So it appears the drivers may have been experiencing some of what we were, but I assume not as much, because that would have been literally undrivable.
Oh, and certainly some parts of it we saw cars were going through the wall, and that would have been unbelievably difficult. There are some messages coming through from admin saying that they are aware of the issue and they're trying to fix it for the second race, and that was a message delivered in capitals, so you know that they're serious.
Absolutely. Shouting it in text at us, which is greatly appreciated. Sorry, I did cut across. You were saying something about pole times?
Yes, well, the pole time, which was set by Dane Warren, was unbelievably quick. That was over a second faster than Jake Moloney, but Jake Moloney, his race pace, I guess that's what he focuses on. Who cares if you finish, if you're not on pole, if you're second on the grid, you're next to the pole sitter, so there's no real cause for concern.
Yeah, consistency and race pace are probably the most important things. I'd say, well, actually, I guess race pace is in large part consistency, being able to just nail in clean, fast laps, lap after lap. Doesn't have to be an absolutely blistering lap that, sets the track on fire behind you. As long as it's fast enough to keep up with the people ahead of you, if they make mistakes, then you're going to reap the benefits.
And reap the benefits Jake Moloney has. We're just going to go on a quick break now. We're going to try and update you on the points on the other side of this break, and hopefully we'll have a qualifying session for you, so don't go anywhere.
Absolutely.
Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us
Wherever you're watching around the country or indeed the world. We're here in Kota, Monaco,
Sydney, Imola,
Shanghai, Albert Park, Austria, Suzuka.
Down the inside of Pablo, and there's been contact.
Spun out already.
They've had to double stack.
Tyres that you could dig them up and look at them on the fossil record.
So
Usain Bolt of hairpins.
It's missing a rear tyre. Welcome to the previous round recap, brought to you by Apex Rear Wing. Qualifying for the first race in Adelaide was tightly contested and saw Jake Moloney steal pole position from Dane Warren in the final stages.
Will he jump up into pole position? Yes, he does, by 3.5 hundredths of a second. Jake Moloney is your provisional pole sitter.
But race 1 itself turned into a mixture of demolition derby,
Huge crash, this is disastrous.
and orderly procession. Pit stops scattered the order, with much of the race being run behind the safety car.
And that means we're about to go racing.
Controversy in the closing stages as early race leader Dane Warren was T-boned by Kurt Stenberg on the run-up to turn 4.
And that is another safety car.
Staying out of trouble was Emily Jones, who drew first blood, leading home a TTR 1-2 ahead of Jake Moloney in third.
A very, very bizarre race. 3 fantastic restarts, and she's your race winner.
The safety car was disabled for race 2, allowing a more natural race to develop. Dane Warren took pole in the shootout by a whopping 0.3 of a second.
Does it with the exact same time that got him through into the shootout.
Jake Moloney piled on the pressure, and while Warren was busy trying not to crash into a stricken backmarker, Moloney took the lead.
Oh, big moment there, so that's a change for the lead.
Warren fought back, and the race looked set to go to the line until a disastrous pit stop dropped him down the order.
Yeah, so everyone here forgetting that you can't drive through cars in the pit lane.
Moloney took a comfortable victory from Kurt Stenberg and race 1 winner Emily Jones.
Welcome back to Albert Park for the second round of the Automobilista Supercars Championship. We are just in a short little intermission between races. Qualifying session for race 2 will start momentarily. A little bit of technical dramas going on in race 1 with some very tricky conditions. Lag. The server was very up and down. It kind of improved a little bit towards the end of the race, but there were parts of it where it was basically undrivable, Madbird, and they're resetting the server. It's a dedicated server. They're resetting it in an attempt to fix those issues, which we didn't have in round 1.
Yeah, so hopefully it won't be an issue this time around. We can only hope. Looks as if the server is back up. People are rejoining, so hopefully all looking good. Let's cross our fingers.
That's right. So we're just we've got a couple of. We haven't got the full results for you, but we've got the top guys at least in terms of their points position. It's a very handy lead now for Jake Moloney. He is on 429 points with 2 victories and a 3rd place finish out of the 3 races that we've had so far. And behind him in 2nd place is Kurt Stenberg on 396 points. So a 35 point lead to Jake Moloney as it stands. And Kurt Stenberg possibly, we think, may well be getting another slap on the wrist for what we believe was contact with Thomas McMillan down there at turn 1.
Yeah, just a little bit messy. Just tapped him going into turn 1. So hopefully, I'm assuming it wasn't intentional. I was about to say hopefully not intentional. I'm sure it wasn't intentional. But yeah, hopefully no incidents like that in race 2. There were a couple of other people just seemed to get a little bit of a punt, but that was during the very laggy period, so potentially due to that. Hopefully a bit cleaner in race 2, which is interesting because it's the longer race. Yeah,
but it might give them, they might start the race with a little bit of a more apprehensive approach, given that they know that there are pit stops to play out. With a sprint race, you know that you have to get it done on track. There's no two ways about it, whereas with the pit stop race, you can potentially wait for the round of pit stops to finish before you do something. And you could do something with your tyres that's a bit different to someone else, pit later or pit earlier, and try and get an undercut or an overcut, or have fresher tyres at the end of the race. It just gives you some more options that they may not necessarily come to fruition, but they may give you just a calmer approach, because you feel like you've got something else in the bank for later.
Other stuff to think about than just pedal to the metal, go as fast as you can, and hope you finish well.
Exactly right. Very, very costly race for Dane Warren. He finished 12th and 4th in Adelaide, and we're still trying to actually ascertain where he ended up finishing in that race. He came across the line in 3rd, but he had the drive-through penalty, so that appears to have dropped him way, way, way down. We thought it might drop him down only 3 positions, but Live Races is telling us he's dropped more positions than I can count down that leaderboard. So we'll wait for official confirmation on that during the week on the Facebook page for the Automobilista Supercars Championship.
Yeah, the game seemed to think that he was down amongst the lap runners, which that's if that's the penalty, that's an incredibly huge penalty for what would be a drive-through. Drive-through will probably be about 15 seconds, if that. So I'm assuming there may have been some funniness going on, but as you say, we'll wait and see what happens. Server is up and people are heading out to do some quick cheeky practice laps. Stan Birchall in the Monster Mustang Racing, and one of the War Race Engineering cars, that's Ozrob, doing a practice start there beside the safety car, the Audi safety car.
The Audi safety car, we didn't see any of it in race 1. We saw it last week in race 1, and I keep saying last round.
Surprisingly, considering some of the accidents we had, I'm thinking of, oh, who was it? Sorry, David Nenendick. His accident towards the end of race 1, where he clipped the wall and then he bounced back across it and then back across again and then ended up stationary beside the wall. That's the sort of thing that I would expect to bring out a safety car generally. So it's possible they've overcorrected. It was too sensitive in round 1. Now they've made it so that it's only going to come out if the heat death of the universe occurs.
Well, it'll certainly spice things up if the heat death of the universe does occur for race 2. But, well, yeah, I think I agree with you there. It'd be nice if something a few marks short of that does cause the safety car to come out, just to spice up, especially for pit stop strategies like we're going to see in race 2 tonight.
Can be a little bit boring when everyone pits on a certain lap and then they just go to the end, and it's not really a strategy. It's just everyone just does it and gets it out of the way, and then it's just a race as normal to the end. So
well, we are expecting quite a narrow pit window for this second race. It's only 25 laps, and we're only expecting a pit window somewhere in about 2 or 3 laps, where you can pit and get to the end. So we're either going to see people sort of pit towards the start of that pit window or the end of it, and there's not going to be a huge difference between the early pitters and the late pitters. But a safety car, if it happened like the lap before the pit window opens, they might be able to make it on fuel, and some people might take that risk and some people might not.
Yeah, and that's the sort of thing you need, just to spice it up a little bit, as you were saying. So we can only hope that that the strategies work out in an interesting way. But I guess that all remains to be seen. There wasn't a long race in round 1, was there? There was 2 sprints.
Well, 2 long races. So we've had pit stops in the race 1 and race 2 last round. I'll get it right.
Well, shut my mouth.
Yeah, shut your mouth. No, don't do that. You're my co-commentator. That's
would not end well.
Yeah, would not end well. We're looking at Ozrob now in that fantastic livery. I quite like their livery in race 1, but their livery in race 2 has gone above and beyond, I think. We didn't see much of them in race 1 today, so getting a bit of airtime now in the warm-up.
Yeah, it is quite nice. Good, that black, yellow, and red. Good color combinations. Reminds me a little bit of the Iron Man suit, which I'm not sure if that's intentional or not. With war, I'm not sure what the significance of war is.
I can perhaps enlighten you to that? I believe it's to do with their drivers, Will and Rob.
That makes a lot of sense. In that case, probably ignore me. It's probably nothing to do with Iron Man. It's just a happy coincidence that it happens to be red and gold.
Everyone's kicked a goal then.
Exactly. Everyone has kicked a super goal because we are in the NAB Cup. Cam Rutledge stuck in the gravel.
Oh, goodness gracious me. Turmo coming a cropper at, guess what, turn 13. Sorry, that wasn't turn 13. Yes, it was. I was right.
Yep, that is turn 13. Yep.
Well, shut my mouth.
No, don't. I just felt like I should return the favour. Everyone just sort of setting some practice laps. I'm not sure if they're going to just let this practice session run out before moving on to qualifying. Looks as if we're missing 3 from the first race. We've only got 26 people in the server at the moment. We did have 29 for race 1, so hopefully, as Dodger is slowly easing in and out of the pit box, maybe practicing, driving at the pace that they'll be driving during the warm-up lap, in an attempt not to crash into a wall as they did on the warm-up lap for the first race, causing some pretty terminal damage for their race prospects.
Now, I suppose it's a little bit of a catch-22, and if you're Dodger, you've got to warm your tyres up so that they work. But if you crash your car into the wall, nothing else is going to work very well.
No, definitely not. And there's someone that races with us quite often called Goofball Antics, who has a bit of a history of oversteering into walls while trying to weave to warm up the tyres. So if you're watching, Heathy, then shout out to you, mate, because you've done that a lot.
I'm sure he's well aware.
I just like to point it out, I like to bring people down to my level.
Well, another thing that he tends to do a lot is run out of fuel during the race, and it'd be interesting to see if that happens to anyone tonight. Seamless segue, by the way. With such
Beautifully done.
Which is such a small pit window, whether people push that window to its limits and maybe go a little bit longer, or pit a little bit early to see whether or not those that they can extend maybe just one more lap, find some advantage here or there, given how tight we saw the midfield battle was. They may need to do some fuel saving towards the back end of the race.
Well, a safety car can help with that as well, because your fuel is cut. Your fuel usage, is cut extremely during a safety car period, because you're just trundling along base. So that can help spice it up. And you might want to risk an early stop, or you might stop early under greens, hoping that there's a safety car later in the race, so that you don't use up all that fuel at full race pace. So hopefully something a little bit interesting happens. We're not obviously listening to the races, but if it was anything like Heathy's fueling habits, then around it's last lap, second to last lap, someone will utter, "Oh no," and and everyone will roll their eyes. But hopefully we don't see anyone putting to a stop on the last lap.
Speaking of people who've run out of fuel in races, Corey Ott, we've got news through that he didn't run out of fuel, but something that he has done in Automobilista before that we've seen in Automobilista Supercars Championship, beg your pardon, GT3 Championship last year. And an aside, he apparently retired due to the lag, so he might have thought it was on his end. So that's basically confirmation that we've seen a lot of the drivers, Scott Nolan as well, in live chat, confirming that the lag was very, very bad for the drivers. Brap, it appears, disconnected. So I wonder if that was caused by the server issues, or whether that was on Brap's side.
On Brap. I feel as if I want to make like a Bratwurst joke, but I can't figure it out.
That was the worst joke.
Thomas McMillan, currently fastest in this practice session. He had a frustrating race one. He was up fighting for the podium, and then I believe there was a bit of contact with somebody. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head during those lag spikes, and he ended up being dropped down to about 10th and having to fight his way back up.
Indeedly do. Indeedly do.
Indeedly diddly do.
Well, Devon is driving into his nicely appointed garage there. Good little detail there that they've got the garage painted up with their colours. That's a nice little touch.
That is quite nice. That's very nice indeed. Sorry, I did have more to say, but it just vanished.
It's fine. As have all the cars from this side of the racetrack. There are a few cars on the track, but they're not going down the pit straight. Here's Nigel Marneef. I haven't got the results in front of me actually, so I can't tell you how he did in race 1, but didn't get a lot of airtime. It's fair to say.
Yeah, he did start from the back, not having set a time in qualifying. So I imagine he's hoping to be able to set a time this time around during qualifying.
Yeah, and I mean while they're trying to fix these server issues, this at least gives him a bit of a chance to do some more practice. And every lap around here is important when it comes to practice. It all counts. Yeah,
definitely, certainly. Just that it's that consistency again. You just gotta nail down a rhythm that you can get yourself into, and you just switch off and just concentrate on parking the car on those apexes and keeping those lap times nice and consistent and clean. Getting confirmation from Rhodey, from Benjamin Rhodes, I was going to say exfoliate.
He's a de facto
our affiliate.
At the moment.
Yeah. Dane was in 22nd according to the results, so not sure if that'll be the actual result once they've had a look at it, but if so, that is a massive. Yeah.
It's hard to undo a penalty like that. It seems as though the game wants you to take the drive-through penalty in the race, because if it adds it as a time penalty, it seems to give you an almighty time penalty. Although having said that, the pit lane transit time around here is probably fairly long, since it's a Formula 1 racetrack, so the pit lane's longer than a lot of other supercars tracks, and the pit lane speed limit is 40 kilometers an hour, which is quite slow, which is why the transit time is so much longer in a supercar than it is in a Formula 1 car.
I still wouldn't think it'd be anything more than about 20 seconds though, surely. Although looking at it, it is quite long. I just don't see how it could drop him from 3rd to 22nd though. That seems
the lap down is the bit
incredibly
confusing
excessive.
Me.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, unless it just the penalty just adds a lap to your time, which again is very harsh.
Very, very harsh. Nigel Marneef ended up 16th in race 1 there, just to update you on that one.
Not too bad, starting from 29th.
All the results, incidentally, available on rsmclanau.liveracers.info. You can troll through race 1 results, qualifying results, practice results if you like, and also live timing, which we are delighted to be able to use to try and follow the race, and certainly helps us out a lot because there's so much action going on that you don't even see during the course of a race.
Absolutely. Looks as if the practice session has come to a close, so not sure whether we'll be moving on to qualifying now or if we're still waiting on some server issues to be concluded. 27 people in the server now, so still missing 2. Not sure which ones we're missing. Just trawling through the list, I don't see anyone I don't not see anyone I wouldn't expect to see. If I can make a sentence, Ethan Warren I can't see in the list, so potentially not returning for race 2.
That would be disappointing because we want to see both Warren brothers up there, and I don't think either of them have had a clean race yet. So we certainly wish them that because they deserve to be up there as much as everyone else. It's a bit of a quiet falls over the Albert Park circuit as I try and remember what it was I was going to say before. Here we go. Number of cars out in the pit lane. Again, no one paying attention to the rule about the green light.
Including Kurt Stenberg again.
Okay, well, maybe the rule obviously is not that important.
Bit of contact there between Scott Nolan and Glenn Postlethwaite.
I remember what I was going to say before, Madbird.
Oh, Dilpod, go ahead, Stairs.
The delays, while frustrating to fix the server, I hopefully have fixed the issues we were having with lag, but better a delay than a disaster, I always say.
Very well done. I feel like that should be that needs to be a motto for somebody. Better a delay than a disaster.
Tiger?
Yeah. Qantas would be quite good. Tiger, much more apt, considering your particular experiences with them.
Well, not Tiger, Jetstar, actually, but, for anyone playing at home. My previous two attempts at flying with Jetstar included a cancelled flight and 2 gate changes and an aircraft change. While they fixed something they said would take half an hour, ended up taking 2 hours. And I hadn't managed to download many episodes of my particular chosen form of entertainment. And I didn't
Tara
have
the Sweet Tooth Celery Man.
Check it out on Netflix, guys. You will not be disappointed.
Absolutely. Scott Nolan. Sorry, go ahead. No, you please.
45 seconds into this qualifying session now. I'll try and find Scott Nolan so you can make your point.
Oh, I was just going to say Scott Nolan and Glenn Postlethwaite leading us on this outlap for qualifying, both for Synergy Sim Racing, Sim Racing 1 and Sim Racing 2.
And in the exact same, sorry, go on with the identical car.
I was about to say identical cars, yes.
But for 2 different teams, as you said, Synergy Sim Racing 1 and Synergy Sim Racing 2. So Synergy Sim Racing will probably be a bit miffed about the way they've split up their their drivers. They have good drivers in both teams, and so they're not accruing points both for the same team. Andy Simpson, incidentally, actually racing in real life at the moment. He's testing the Toyota 86 at Phillip Island for Seal Racing Team. So keep an eye out for him in the 86 series, because he's one of the guys in this series. We hope to see some of him later on when it doesn't clash with his busy schedule. One of the guys racing both in a sim and also in real life.
Yeah, most impressive. Good luck to Andy in his real-life racing ambitions. As Scott Nolan crosses the line to start his flying lap, would probably be wanting a better result than he had in the first race. He's usually right up there. He was not even in the top 10, I believe, or possibly finished 9th, now that I'm remembering. So he
got up to 8th in the end, so it was a good recovery, but qualifying for whatever reason didn't go his way in the first qualifying session tonight.
Yep, so he'll be wanting to remedy that quick smart in this session. He's looking quite good so far through the first sector.
Well, it is a dose of echinacea for him, isn't it? To use your remedy analogy.
I greatly appreciate your work. Scott, his first sector time was a 37.6, which has actually been bettered by the 2 people in the Synergy Sim Racing 2 team. Dan Ackland, a 10th better in the first sector. Glenn Postlethwaite, 2/10ths better in the first sector. So, interesting that the Synergy Sim Racing 2 seems to be currently outperforming Synergy Sim Racing 1 in qualifying as well.
That is very interesting indeed. So whether that continues, we will wait and see. Scott Nolan coming up to the infamous turn 13, the scene of so many people's misery in race 1.
Absolute misery, apocalyptic misery, I would say. Again, Sector 2, he has been bettered by Thomas McMillan, Glenn Postlethwaite and Dan Ackland. So if this continues...
Sorry, Dane Warren going purple in Sector 1 and 2 now, so he's showing the sort of pace that he showed in the first qualifying session. Scott Nolan goes to the top with 54.2. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I'm going to want to hope that that Dane Warren will do some practice starts during the warm-up, perhaps. Because his start was what let him down in the first race. He would have been off up the road from Jake Moloney if it hadn't been for that.
So Glenn Postlethwaite, Thomas McMillan, time's coming in thick and fast now. Jake Moloney up into 3rd place. Scott Nolan dropped to 6th with that one. But a lot of Synergy Sim Racing guys out there setting their lap times early in this qualifying session. So far, I mean, I don't want to say this too early, so touch wood. So far, it looks like our lag issues have been somewhat resolved. We were seeing the beginnings of lag in the qualifying session for race 1, but it looks pretty good to me so far.
Yeah, the pings I'm seeing on all the drivers are all around the 100, 150 mark, which is much more what you usually see in Automobilistas. So crossing fingers and knocking on all the wood that we have, it appears to have been sorted. Dane Warren, as the times come flooding in, I'm just watching the live races.
Dane Warren 5/10 faster than Thomas McMillan there.
Not as big a margin as he had in the first qualifying session over second place. Jake Moloney will be wanting to pick up his pace if he's going to want to be on the front row again for race 2. Currently 2/10 behind. No, God, sorry. Currently 7/10 behind Thomas McMillan in third place.
Well, during the week, Thomas McMillan set an awful lot of laps in the RSM service, and he got a 51.8. So that's not too far off where Dane Warren is right now. Not sure what the track grip levels were for that lap, but 341 laps Thomas McMillan did around this racetrack. That is a hefty amount of practice.
That is, yeah, that is. I would categorise that as a shed load. That is an incredible amount of practice.
He's found a bit of time with that lap. Sorry, 2/10 off.
Well, hopefully yeah, that's good pace. Hopefully translate to very consistent lap times as well, with that amount of practice under your belt.
Glenn Postlethwaite in third place, going for another lap. He's up in third place there. Kurt Stenberg's jumped up into fourth, so Jake Moloney's getting shuffled down the order fairly quick smart. There's a few cars within a few tenths of a second there.
I've just I've done a little bit of maths.
Yes.
So 341 laps. Granted, some of those probably would have been out laps or in laps. I believe live races tends to count leaving your pit box as a lap, so let's take this with a grain of salt. But 341 laps of approximately a 2-minute lap time is about 11 hours of practice, Says.
Well, that's a long amount of practice. That's a lot of practice. That's a long time. 11 hours. You could do a lot of things in 11 hours.
You could. You could do a lot of things in 11 hours. But that, yeah, if even half that, 5 hours is an incredible amount of practice for a sim race. So,
well, not for these guys though. They really do like to spend every spare moment they have in the sim rig.
That's very true. So we'll be hoping for a better result in race 2, and so far second on the grid, starting on the front row. It's looking like it for him. Just going to have to hope that no one else causes him to come unstuck as happened in race 1.
Kurt Stenberg just finishing a lap, sitting in fourth at the moment. Where can he slot himself up into if he is able to improve on this lap? He's found 3.5 tenths of a second on his personal best, but it doesn't improve his position one iota.
Absolutely. Still a tenth and some change behind Glenn Postlethwaite. Glenn Postlethwaite showing some ripping form for his first round here with us.
It's a personal best lap there for Dan Ackland. Jake Moloney down into 6th place. Colin Warwick and Jake Moloney are mighty close. That lap for Kurt Stenberg, he set the fastest purple, set the purple final sector, so fastest final sector of the session. So that's good news for him if he can string together the first and second sector. Not much time left in this qualifying session though.
Yeah, Dane Warren just getting out of the way there of Jake Moloney, his nemesis, going into the last sequence of corners. Jake Moloney has started another hot lap, still down in 6th place, so he is going to definitely want to improve his. If he's gonna make a charge for a second race win this round. Goes, oh!
That was close. This is his last go at it, and he was mighty aggressive over the curbs. Went very wide at turn 1 there.
Very nearly rolled the car. Heart was in my mouth for a moment just watching that. Don't know if that'll pay off in time. I'm going to imagine not.
Be careful on the curbs with these cars. We've seen before that people can grip flip them. They do seem to have a lot of grip. And he's back. Is he backed out of it? I think he's backed out of it.
Yeah, that's if he hasn't, this is a very slow lap. Yeah, he definitely has.
Not going to be troubling the scorers there.
No, he's off on an excursion.
So that's disappointing for Jake Moloney, the championship leader. He's going to be starting from 6th at best. That's if no one else improves. We're looking at Colin Warwick now going off the track and not bettering his time. Corey Ott, what can he do? He's sat in 8th. Much better performance from him in race 2, qualifying 2, than race number 1. What can he do?
Kurt Stenberg into the pits, so we'll not be setting another time. Dan Ackland is currently out on track. Wait, no, he's just come into the pits for a practice pit stop.
Coming into the pits, so Corey Ott's not going to do another one. Brody Steen appears to be... Well, he appears to be pushing, so let's see what Brody Steen is capable of, as the timer has hit 0, so anyone not on the racetrack now setting a lap will not get another chance to do so, and Brody Steen doesn't appear as though he's going to improve on this lap, 8/10 down on his PB.
No, he was faster than his best time in the. He was faster than his best first sector through the first sector. So looks as if he was going for a quick one, but maybe had an issue there in the second sector somewhere, because his time seems to have come unstuck somewhat. Have we got anybody else still out there? Scott on
lap at the moment. Steve Birchall had stopped on track, so he was one of the only other guys who was on the racetrack. What has Jay Borg got in store for us? Currently sat down there in 18th, and he's coming around the final corner now. He's got to find about 8/10 of a second to improve his position on Stephen Birchall. That's a big gap for 18th and 19th. He finds 2/10. Good improvement, but not enough to improve his position, and someone else has actually jumped ahead of them by the looks of it, as he's now dropped down to 19th place.
We've got Brapp, one of our final runners to cross the line, improves up to 20th.
That's a handy little improvement. 1.2 seconds.
1.2 second improvement, so good work, Brapp. Anyone else still out there? Doesn't look like it. Everyone has finished or is in the pits. So that is our qualifying order for race 2.
So Dane Warren, another pole for Dane Warren. He's getting pretty used to this, but can he convert in race 2 today? Thomas McMillan will start out of 2nd place. Glenn Postlethwaite, 3rd place. It was a bit of a quiet session for him. He just quietly gets it done, doesn't he?
Yeah, not much, nothing Larry about it. Just set a pretty bloody quick lap time, and is going to start in front on the second row of the grid, ahead of Kurt Stenberg, who is no slouch either. So going to be very interesting to watch those top 4 shake themselves out over the first couple of laps. Dane Warren hopefully getting a better start this time around, and giving Thomas McMillan a run for his money.
Absolutely. Well, good chance for a quick break for us. No more grid penalties to shake themselves out for race 2 tonight. So the order that you saw them qualify in just then is the order that they'll start race 2, provided no one drops out, of course. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with race 2.
Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us.
Wherever you're watching, around the country,
Or indeed the world.
we're here in Kota,
Monaco, Sydney,
Imola,
Shanghai,
Albert Park, Austria, Suzuka.
Down the inside of Pablo,
and there's contact. Spun out already.
They've had the double stack.
Tyres that you could dig them up and look at them on the fossil record.
So
Usain Bolt of hairpins.
It's missing a rear tyre. Welcome to the previous round recap, brought to you by Apex Rear Wing. Qualifying for the first race in Adelaide was tightly contested and saw Jake Moloney steal pole position from Dane Warren in the final stages.
Will he jump up into pole position? Yes, he does, by 3.5 hundredths of a second. Jake Moloney is your provisional pole sitter.
But race 1 itself turned into a mixture of demolition derby,
Huge crash, this is disastrous.
and orderly procession. Pit stops scattered the order, with much of the race being run behind the safety car.
That means we're about to go racing.
Controversy in the closing stages, as early race leader Dane Warren was T-boned by Kurt Stenberg on the run-up to turn 4.
And that is another safety car.
Staying out of trouble was Emily Jones, who drew first blood, leading home a TTR 1-2 ahead of Jake Moloney in 3rd.
A very, very bizarre race. 3 fantastic restarts, and she's your race winner.
The safety car was disabled for race 2, allowing a more natural race to develop. Dane Warren took pole in the shootout by a whopping 0.3 of a second.
does it with the exact same time that got him through into the shootout.
Jake Moloney piled on the pressure, and while Warren was busy trying not to crash into a stricken back marker, Moloney took the lead.
Oh, big moment there, so that's a change for the lead.
Warren fought back, and the race looked set to go to the line until a disastrous pit stop dropped him down the order.
Yeah, so everyone here forgetting that you can't drive through cars in the pit lane.
Moloney took a comfortable victory from Kurt Stenberg and race 1 winner Emily Jones.
Welcome back, everyone, to the second round of the Automobilista Supercars Championship. My name's Stairs. I'm joined in commentary tonight by Madbird. We've seen some interesting things happen in race 1. Nothing really goes as we expect it to. The lag that seems to have been besetting the guys for the first race appears to have been the issue seems to have been solved for race 2, but the real test will be the race itself, and that means we're going to get a proper race from the start when they're all bunched up. Whereas race 1, it was very, very difficult to follow the action. With all of
Understatement
of the weekend of the Tuesday.
Absolutely. Yeah, very. There was probably a good 4 or 5 laps in the middle there where we were basically clueless as to what was going on, because cars were flying all over the track. Definitely, probably not anywhere related to where they actually were on track, but that's certainly all we could see. Hopefully, all ironed out. Where there's been a couple of resets between the 2 races, so hopefully the server won't be groaning this time around, and we'll get to see some good, clean, hard racing.
Just the 2 drivers that we've lost from race 1, Ethan Warren and Michael Ford, not returning for race 2. Don't think that was the difference. I believe that whatever it was they were doing during the warm-up is what seems to have fixed the server issues. But unfortunate to lose 2. Still 27 is a big, strong grid.
That is a very that's a hefty grid. Certainly more than enough for us to keep track of.
Oh yes. More than a handful.
We're getting
for Thomas McMillan there. Strange place to do it.
Yeah, getting some information here from the admins. If the server lags again, just do your best. We are hoping it doesn't. If it does, it is an issue out of our control. But it all appears to be fine right now. All of the pings I'm seeing are around the 100 mark, which is much more what we'd be likely to see in a multiplayer race. In the first race, I was seeing plenty of pings that were lowest I saw was about 500, I think, and I saw them go as high as about 1200. So 100 is positively beautiful in comparison, and they all seem to be hanging around that at the moment. So cross fingers and knock on wood, we are looking good.
Well, yes, I tend to think that they have fixed the issues. Thomas McMillan doing a bit of a drift show for us at the moment, and you can see the car tilting and yawing, and that's not something that you could see with the lag as it was before. It would have just been sort of sliding sideways in an unrealistic fashion. Now the car seems to be behaving as a supercar should behave. It's a lot more realistic.
Absolutely, yeah. It's certainly one way to warm your tyres. The way it's quite exhilarating to watch. I imagine Dodger will be wanting to take note of what he's doing and not do it during the warm-up lap for race 2.
Probably won't want to do that.
No, definitely not. Although better that than into the wall.
Right, you are. So Thomas McMillan, I think he is pretty happy with where he is starting this race alongside Dane Warren, knowing Dane Warren's checkered history with his race pace. It's there, but tends to trip over himself. Historically. Inconsistent is a good term for it. What can Thomas McMillan provide? He was somewhat mired back in the field in race 1, and some of that was, we saw the incident at turn 3 with Glenn Postlethwaite that cost Thomas quite badly. He starts cleanly and has only Dane Warren ahead of him, or if he manages to get Dane Warren at the start, anything's possible.
Speaking of starts, We are into the race session. 25 laps, counting down for everyone to get out onto the out onto the grid. So won't be too much longer until we're setting off on our warm-up lap here. Got our leader Thomas McMillan. Sorry, we've got our second place position of Thomas McMillan. He wishes he was leading currently. Out there already, along with third and fourth. Kurt Stenberg in a very good position compared to where he was in race 1. So interesting to see if he's going to be able to take the fight to those ahead of him.
And crucially, ahead of his championship the championship leader, Jake Moloney. So Stenberg's currently second in the championship. Maloney's behind him. That's very important. Yeah,
from Kurt's point of view, Jake Moloney is the championship antagonist.
That's exactly right.
Disappointing qualifying from Jake Moloney, but we saw he had some very good race pace and an ability to keep it where he wanted it to be on the track, so that might play into his hands if there's a tussle up ahead of him.
Well, Dane Warren leads them away. You want to take us through the grid?
Absolutely. So Dane Warren, with a disappointing race 1, still not sure where he finished up, leads us off with a second, 22nd we think, with a second pole position for the night. Thomas McMillan, very good qualifying. He's starting from second, a bit better than the first race. Glenn Postlethwaite came second in the first race after people fell apart ahead of him. Quietly going about the night. He's set a good lap time, put himself up into third. Kurt Stenberg, no penalties this time around. I think he was about 5th before penalties, or 5th or 6th before penalties last race, last qualifying, sorry. But this time, nothing to drag him down. He's starting from 4th for Trans-Tasman. Dan Ackland managed to get a podium in the first race, third behind his teammate Glenn Postlethwaite. He's starting from 5th. Jake Moloney, winner of race 1 and current championship leader, starting from 6th. Just couldn't put a fast lap together during the second qualifying. He's going to hope to gain some positions on the start, I imagine. Colin Warwick, another one who was weighed down with penalties in the first race. Not so this time around. He's starting from 7th. Corey Ott in 8th. Much more representative of his pace than his position in the first race. Brody Steen, 9th this time around. Probably about where he started the second, about where he started the first race, beg my pardon. Once you take into account the people ahead of him who were pushed behind him by penalties. Scott Nolan in 10th, hoping for a good result after a bit of a hairy race first time around. Will Devonish in 11th with Adam Zeitinger for company in the Astro Altus Esports Mustang. Dave Nanandic in 13th, hopefully a lucky number 13 for him there. Zach Baker in 14th after a shocking first race. He got dropped down with some contact early on in race 1. He's going to be hoping for a better result this time around. Aiden Schultz in 15th for Team 11, number 11. And Sean Allen in the other race on Oz car, starting from 16th. Ozrob for company behind him. Bit of a gap there between the two War Race Engineering boys. Sam Birchall in the Monster Mustang in 18th. Jay Borg in the plain black Stealth Penrite Racing car, with Brap for company behind him in the Brap Autosports. Hopefully a better result there for Brap this race. Termo in 21st. Cam Rutledge in the... as I said that, Brap is off. Brap, what are you doing to me? He's managed to spin it on the warm-up lap, so there's going to be a bit of a wait while we wait for him to get to his grid slot. Cam Rutledge for Cameron Rutledge Racing, starting from 22nd. RSM Latino in 23rd for Rock Solid Mates Racing. Acclaim Bite in 24th. Dodger in 25th. Managed to keep it out of the wall this time around. And Stenny and Nigel Marneef rounding out the grids for this race, as we, I believe, are waiting for Brap to... Here he comes. Through the middle.
A bonnet because he had a fairly hefty Brap with the wall when he spun the wheels up after you just wished him a good race. So unfortunate.
Not covering himself with glory.
Very early in giving guys the commentator's curse in your career in this particular championship, but nonetheless he's in place. I wonder how damaged his car is. Second race in 2 that we've had a car crash on the warm-up lap, but now it's time to go racing. Dane Warren, does he get away cleanly? Thomas McMillan has got the better start. And
much
again,
better start.
Dane Warren coming under pressure from Kurt Stenberg up the inside. And doesn't manage to get the position done. They're going to fight with Glenn Postlethwaite. Again, Dane Warren gets a good exit out of turn 2, though, putting Thomas McMillan under pressure down into 3. I don't think he's going to be close enough to make the lunge there. Oh, he has a bit of a look. And behind him, Kurt Stenberg has got Jake Moloney for company. Jake Moloney making the position up on Dan Ackland as they all go through the turn 3, 4, and 5 complex.
Yeah, I thought Dane was going to send it at turn 3 there. He was frustrated all last race, stuck behind someone a little bit slower than him, but much more consistent, which I think I can see happening again here with Thomas McMillan. Glenn Postlethwaite just quietly and firmly defending his position from Kurt Stenberg in turn 1 and 2. Kurt still in 4th position. He was up alongside Dane Warren and Glenn Postlethwaite going into turn 1, but didn't manage to get the position done. Dan Ackland dropping back, and further back down the order we have looks like there was an accident with somebody. Steve Birchall, I think, has dropped a bunch of positions. Not sure what's happened there. There is some debris on the fast left-hander coming out of the turn 9 and 10.
But sizing Thomas McMillan up here down into turn 13. This was not his favourite spot in the first race, but they go side by side, and Dane Warren's got himself perfectly positioned to get the move.
Oh!
Well, Thomas McMillan, did he not see him there? He turned in. Dane Warren was there, more than earned his place, and basically Thomas McMillan, all he succeeded in doing there was giving both of them a little bit of damage, but he's managed to slide on through down at the penultimate corner. So Thomas McMillan aggressively retaking the position. Bit of a moment on the final corner though, and he drives him to the pit wall. Oh, that's very aggressive. Dane Warren loses his mirror because Thomas McMillan has sideswiped him.
Yeah, that's not sure what's going on exactly. I'm willing to give Thomas McMillan the benefit of the doubt with the first one. He's gone very wide on the first corner and has lost a bunch of positions. He's down into 3rd. Kurt Stenberg now up alongside him. Seems to be getting the elbows out a bit more than is possibly necessary. That first one at the exit of going into turn 14, looks like he dipped a tire into the grass, and so when he turned, the car just sort of turned a little bit more aggressively than he was expecting it to. I have no justifications for the antics down the pit straight though. Not sure what happened there.
As we've got some return of the lag that beset us in race 1, and that's absolutely not what we want to see. So that's it's been very, very good up until now, but now we're having the same issues we had in race 1. Dane Warren with a 1.3 second advantage though. He is absolutely licking his chops right now. Have we lost Thomas McMillan? Thomas McMillan spins to the inside.
Yeah, that is looking like some heavy damage, and he's gone back to the pits. He has DNF'd out of this race, so it's looking so promising. All undone within 2 laps, and the pings seem to be dropping back down now around 450, which still isn't ideal, but obviously better than it was. Not sure what happened to Thomas McMillan there. If he just got it looked like it was through the turn 9 and 10 complex.
Well, that was bizarre. I've never seen someone fall apart so quickly, looking so strong. Kept his nose out of trouble in race number 1. Qualified really well in race 2. Got off to a good start. Dane Warren put what I thought was a pretty clean move on him down there into turn 13, turn 14. And then it just all fell apart from there.
With the lag we're now seeing, potentially it might have started earlier for the drivers. It could be, because that was... I haven't seen too much of Thomas McMillan's racing, but coming from iRacing and stuff, I'd expect that he wouldn't be the sort to just, shoulder barge people, which is essentially what was happening. So it could be that the server was already struggling, as it continues to do now.
Yes.
Pings are flying up and down, like a hooker's trousers. So I'm not sure. Probably a little bit incorrect. A hooker's dress.
Gone haywire as well. But Jake Moloney, it appears as though Jake Moloney has lost. Sorry, Jake Moloney wasn't in the lead. Beg your pardon. Glenn Postlethwaite though is in the lead. So what has happened to Dane Warren?
No, I believe Dane Warren is still in the lead. We're having those issues again because Jake Moloney is actually in
Dane Warren, sorry.
4th position. Yep.
Sorry to Dane Warren fans.
Dane Warren's still in the lead. Glenn Postlethwaite still in 2nd. Kurt Stenberg in 3rd. Jake Moloney in 4th, at least on track. So waiting for that lag to shake itself out. The pings have all dropped back down to sort of normal, and as I say that, they begin climbing back up again. So this is a little bit frustrating.
So purple sector in the middle sector for Dane Warren, who leads on track. You can see him in the front of shot, just disappearing into turn number 14 there, but he's not showing in the lead on the live time. Live timing has him in 22nd place at the moment. We hope that rectifies itself very, very shortly indeed, because it's very clear to us that he's leading this race and he is pulling out a margin on Glenn Postlethwaite.
Well, same thing happened with Glenn Postlethwaite in race 1. We thought he was down in 19th or something and missed the timing post. And it looks as if it might have shaken itself back out. Dane Warren back into first. Yep, Kurt in third and Jake in fourth. So it's all come good eventually. Now just hopefully the pings do.
4 laps in, Kurt Stenberg holding down third place. This is a close old battle between himself and Jake Moloney, who's just having a little bit of a look. I don't think he was ever going to dive down the inside there, although we've seen him be a bit of a monster under brakes in previous occasions. He's not going to want to do anything too silly because he's got a handy old championship lead at the moment. Kurt Stenberg is the man directly behind him in the points though.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a title fight here. Obviously nothing's going to be decided this early on in the season, but every little point helps towards the end of the season, as I learned in the Caterhams for ARW last season.
Do check that out if you get a chance and you want to see some interesting racing.
Absolutely.
Some more interesting racing, that is.
Some more, yeah, not to say that this isn't interesting racing, although it does look as if they're driving the drift V8s that Automobilista also has, considering how they're scything through these corners at 70-degree angles to the corner itself. Certainly some interesting lines that the server is choosing to show us.
Well, it's interesting. The server seemed to... It seems as though we had fixed the issues with the server with the qualifying session. There was no issues there. We got through the first lap and a half, or first lap and a bit, before the server hit. Sorry
to cut across here. Brap has DNF'd. Look, I saw just a split second of him stationary against a wall, so I'm not sure if he tangled with someone or if he did it all by himself, but Brap is out of this race, becomes our second DNF'er.
He's lost a wheel in the background of the shot there, just seeing the end of that, and it appears as though, is that after turn 6? Did he get some help from RSM Latino there out of turn 6, actually? And oh no, he lost it on the grass all by himself. We know he was dealing with damage because we saw that hefty warm-up crash that he had. So, race 2, no better than a fart in an airport chair.
If Brap is listening to this, I do apologise for making that simile, because that's all you're going to be compared to from now on.
No, let's not say that.
I mean, like, you know, if he does better than that, then it'll be, well, it's certainly much better than a fart in an airport chair. But I digress. We'll wait for him to do better than that before we talk about it. So, unfortunately, not finishing this race is Brap, along with Thomas McMillan, our 2 DNFs so far. I hedge my bets with so far. I'm hoping that we don't have too many more people DNFing, but I have a feeling we might do, Stairs.
And Postlethwaite isn't exactly scarpering up off the road ahead of Kurt Stenberg and Jake Moloney. Jake Moloney's got a cool head on calm shoulders, I think. He's not slowing Kurt Stenberg down by diving in at every opportunity. There's still 20 laps to go in this race, and I think he's happy with the pace that Kurt's running at the moment, and he's probably just going to let him drag the two of them up to Glenn Postlethwaite, and then perhaps take advantage of the situation then, maybe with an early pit stop or an overcut, go a couple of laps longer while the others pit early.
Yeah, it was a good qualifying time from Glenn Postlethwaite, but he wasn't incredibly quick in the first race even. He certainly wasn't keeping up with the leading two. He just happened to be the best of the rest, and then the people who were the best ahead of him took themselves out of the race. So he's probably got a bit more pace than he's showing. He's just doing some consistent laps. But this is all, as you say, bringing Kurt Stenberg up into the mix for the podium. Ooh. Or for a higher position on the podium.
A bit of a look just then, though. That was interesting from Moloney, and then we saw a bit of a lock-up from Stenberg. I wonder if that was reactionary, got a bit distracted by the move there from Moloney.
Well, that's sometimes you make a little feint to the inside of a corner just before the braking zone, just to make them look in their mirrors, and maybe then they miss their braking zone and go a bit deep. So it's all part of the art of racing, Steds.
Lap times are very comparable at the moment there. 53.6 from Glenn Postlethwaite, 53.58 from Stenberg. Moloney a touch faster, 53.4. Well, it looks like he got a track cut on the previous lap, so that's not ideal for him.
Yeah, no lap time set on the previous time around, so I'm not sure how many... Do you know how many track cuts you're allowed before you are penalised, as Dane Warren was last race, Des?
Well, they haven't brought it up in the notes, but it was up to 7 for Adelaide, so I hasten to estimate, hasten to guess, probably not the right turn of phrase, but I'd guess that it's probably hasn't been changed if there's been no mention of it.
That's probably a fair assumption to make. Looks as if Dodger has had issues again, currently being lapped by Glenn Postlethwaite. Just not the night for the Jack Daniels racing team. You know, maybe they should try a slightly higher quality Spirit next week.
Oh, they're getting a little bit bottled up behind him. It's a very, very bad place to catch up to him at the exit of turn 1. It's very, very fast, and he's just trying to get out of the way. He probably has a bit of shit on his tyres. That's a move for Jake Moloney down into turn 3. He'll have the outside of turn 4. Kurt Stenberg will hold on to that for the time being, but that was the first serious move we've seen from Jake Moloney.
Yeah, it just with them trying to get past Dodger coming out of turn 2, that just gave him that little bit of extra.
What? Moloney's gone! Moloney's gone! Spearing off at the exit of turn 6. What on earth happened there? That's a technical failure.
He is back to pits, so he is out of this race. Dodger also flying across the track and crashing into a wall. So but
that's unusual. This is not Jake Moloney. Sorry, that's you. Oh my goodness.
That's normal. That is to be expected.
There you go. I've got over my excitement that Jake Moloney out of the race. That is the first DNFer. Kurt Stenberg will not be able to believe his luck, because that may well see him vault himself up into the championship lead at the end of tonight. That's got to be a technical failure, like a wheel disconnection or something.
Yeah, just did not turn, just flew straight off at the into the runoff area and into the wall beyond. So Kurt Stenberg looking at a big haul of points here over Jake Moloney, with Jake Moloney not scoring anything. Kurt's just got to keep his nose clean, make sure he finishes this race.
Development of developments. Your championship leader DNFs on lap 7 of the race.
So I regret now saying that there will hopefully be no more DNFs, because I probably then guaranteed there would be. Probably not enjoying that fact is Jake Moloney, who I presumably cursed. Further down the field, however, we have Dave Nanandic making a position over Will Devonish, who appears to be all out of sorts. He's swaying under brakes and all sorts of stuff.
Zach Baker, he's in 9th place, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, he's gained a few positions. I think he started down in 11th, I want to say, somewhere around there. 11th, which is currently occupied by Jay Borg. Zach Baker all over the back of him, up in 12th place. Definitely looking at a better result than he did in the first race.
Yeah, it's come from a bit further back than he started race 1, so it's all up for Zach Baker as it is. He's got Sean Allen all over the back of him though in the second race on Oscar. It's a fantastic little midfield battle. As the leaders have stretched out, this does give us that opportunity to look at the midfield battle, as we have a bit of a lock up there from Jay Borg into turn 6.
Yeah, it just gives Zach Baker that little bit more pace. Oh, as he looks like he's clouded the wall there, coming down into turns 9 and 10. But hopefully hasn't done himself any damage, just lost a little bit of time. Gonna have to wait to have his go on Jay Borg, probably down into turn 13, I imagine, if he manages to hang on to the back of him through this fast turns 11 and 12.
We're about 3 laps away from where we're expecting the first pit stops to happen, and we're expecting, as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, a pit window no more than about 3 laps. So that's going to mean that we're going to have an absolute flurry of activity in the pits all at once.
Yeah, it's and hopefully all of our iRacing people remember that the cars aren't ghosted in the pits as they are in iRacing in Automobilista. A couple of people, I think, clouding into others in the pits last round. Hopefully, it doesn't occur this time.
Yes, we saw more than a few people coming undone with that. And after someone else had, after they'd probably just witnessed it happen to someone else, they did it themselves, which was a bit surprising. So far, Dane Warren is just extending his lead out front. He currently has a 9-second advantage. So the lap times, let's have a look at that. 52 flat is the fastest lap of the race from Dane Warren, and that's a second and a half almost, 1.4 faster than second place man Glenn Postlethwaite.
That is a mighty lap. That is a qualifying lap time right there, 1:52 dead. Just again, as I think I said before the first race, he doesn't appear to have that. You know, look, I've got the better part of 10 seconds over second place. Let's ease off a bit and, you know, make sure that we actually finish the race. He doesn't seem to have that mode. He just goes hell for leather no matter what. And I'm hoping, for his sake, that it doesn't lead to him coming unstuck.
Exactly. Is going to be his first podium if he finishes where he is right now. So I think I've heard a claim bite's the one that you just heard coming into the pit lane.
Yes.
That was the first pit stop of the race. So lap 9. That's a bit early. I don't think he'll be able to make it to the end on that. It's going to be tight.
Indeed, as Stenny gets a bit of a help by Dane Warren through turn 2 to get out of the way, which was quite nice of him. Currently, a claim bite the only one to have dived into the pits. As you say, it is a little bit early.
Makes you wonder if it was a planned pit stop.
Potentially had damage down in, where is he? Down in 23rd out of 24. So certainly wouldn't be surprising as I'll just switch down to the person who is in last, Dodger, who is rejoining the track at turn 11, I believe that is, after an extended excursion on the gravel. So certainly not the night for Jack Daniels Racing.
Adam Zeitinger currently in 10th place in the second Astro Altis Esports car. He seems to be catching up to Will Devenish at the moment. Will Devenish is having a clear old run in the top 10 at the moment, but Adam just closing him down within a second at the moment.
Good looking car, that Astro Altis Esports, his and the Warrens'. I really like that car.
Yes, and we've got the 2 liveries with it. We've got the Astro and the Logitech G. So 4 Mustangs actually done up for the Altis Esports guys, and they do look a picture. I think I recall someone in the live chat last week saying, last round saying that that was one of their favourites, and it does look good. That's a very, very nice livery indeed.
Speaking of nice liveries, not sure it is one, but Zach Baker all over the back of J-Borg. Still no change there. They are the closest on track at the moment. Closest battle on track, I mean to say.
They seem to be dropping off Sean Allen just a little bit. Sean Allen a little bit further back. That's a big moment there for Jake Borg, and that is going to allow Zach Baker through. But still on the inside is Jake Borg, and Zach Baker doesn't manage to get the job done. Going for the outside of the penultimate corner. That's not going to work. No one's ever got around there. Full of marbles.
Full of marbles. More marbles than a child's mouth. Sean Allen.
You mean, sorry, Daniel Kvyat.
or indeed Kurt Cobain.
Whoa.
Sean Allen now closing in on Zach Baker a little bit. Baker going a little bit deep there at turn 1 has just given Sean Allen a little bit of an opportunity. 2/10 separating the two. Thinks better of diving at turn 3, although Zach Baker doesn't.
It's all closing up there. Sean Allen into the back of Zach Baker. Zach Baker was sandwiched in between them, and he's just managed to hang on to the position there coming out of turn 4. Lap 11, we may well start seeing some pit stops happening now.
Absolutely. I think that was Zach Baker trying to make a very, very late little duck up the inside on Jay Borg. Didn't happen, and Sean Allen wasn't expecting him to come to such a sudden stop, and so there was a little bit of a domino effect. Appears to have resulted in parity, although Nigel Marneef in 14th position is now all over the back of Sean Allen, looking like he's feeling a little bit racy in race 2.
Yeah, he's watching this battle unfold with glee as they all come into his domain, and he says, "Fight, my pretties." And he's up 13 spots from where he started. Clean old run from Nigel Marneef so far, taking advantage of the attrition.
Bloody nice work, Nigel. Bloody nice work.
Love your work, Nigel. Love your work, Nigel, as he gets very, very deep under brakes there. And closes in on Sean Allen. This is a 4-car battle now, my friends. And I think
it's a tasty little battle for
Corey
11.
we're not sure actually how he managed to drop 7 spots off the start, but he's going to close in on this battle too, I should think.
Absolutely. Line astern between 11th and 14th currently.
We've had Stenny, and that is not Kurt Stenberg, but Stenny of the DJR Team Penske livery. He's retired from the race. We're not sure why.
Nigel Marneef down the inside on turn 1. Love your work, Nige. He hasn't managed to pull it off. Got a little bit of a tap there from Sean Allen.
I'll give it another go, Nige. You'll get it down to turn 3.
You got this, Nige.
Well, they've dropped away a little bit from the guys fighting up ahead now. That little move has cost Sean Allen. Oh, and that's a bit deep into the grass for Nigel. And Corey Ott, oh my goodness. That was like something out of Swan Lake in the background. Swinging the car from one side to the next. Thought he was going to lose it, but he managed to hang on. Gracious me.
Wonderful stuff. Further up the field, Colin Warwick has been slowly but surely closing down on Kurt Stenberg in 4th place. Sorry, in 3rd place. So it's quickly looking like it might be a little bit of an admin battle for the last step on the podium, assuming that Dane Warren, who's come into the pits, just behind a claim bite, who has come into the pits a 2nd time.
Yeah, there must be damage.
Yeah, but Dane Warren, the first of our legitimate runners, coming in for his pit stop.
Now we've got, I think that's Stenberg. Stenberg in the TTR car also coming into the pits.
Absolutely. So 2 of our podium sitters coming into the pits. Imagine the rest of the field will pretty soon follow. That shows how much of an advantage Dane Warren has over Kurt Stenberg. He's leaving. Kurt Stenberg hasn't even pulled into his pit box yet.
And he's going to rejoin the race in about 6th place. There's someone else coming down. He may well fall down to 7th.
Yes, he does.
But bit of clear track, not a lot. They got the number 44 there. This is one of our
David Nanadick.
One of our new guys, David Nanadick, and they're not. It's not a big battle pack that he's coming out behind. As we got a lot more action now. Zeitinger and Baker also in the pits, and behind him that whole battle, in fact, is in Sean Allen, Jay Borg.
Yeah, it looks as if Nigel and Corey have stayed out to continue their little scrap. Nigel's still managing to hold on to it over Corey Ott. Would have been a spicy thing if Dane Warren had come out amidst that battle.
Drive-through penalty for Adam Zeitinger.
Oh, no.
Comes a cropper with the pit lane speed limit, and Zeitinger will have an extra tour of the pit lane for his troubles.
Absolutely, it must feel incredibly slow to be trundling along that very long pit lane at 40, but you got to do it. Oh, it's not worth the penalty. Gaining that, well, it wouldn't even be a 1/10 of a second letting off the speed limiter that little bit early, and now it's cost himself a tour through the pit lane.
40 kilometres. It's a very slow pit lane speed limit as Colin Warwick dives into the pit lane, followed by a few others.
Oh.
It might have been RSM Latino. That was close, wasn't it? And Glenn Postlethwaite, the race leader, also in. They're all hard on the anchors, locking the cars up. And this will be interesting to see, actually, where Colin Warwick comes out in relation to Kurt Stenberg, who made his pit stop on the previous lap.
I thought Colin Warwick was going to collect the the outside wall of the pit entrance as Dan Ackland has wedged himself between Glenn Postlethwaite and Colin Warwick. Colin Warwick coming out behind Glenn Postlethwaite as, oh my god, there's chaos in the pit lane.
It's a chaos. It's a chaos. It most certainly is a chaos. This is what the guys who pitted on the previous lap avoided.
Avoided, yeah. They've managed to stay out of all this as cars are pitting at a 45-degree angle, 90-degree angle, whatever they can. They've just got to get their nose into that red box. Kurt Stenberg has managed to keep ahead of Colin Warwick and extended his advantage slightly, but not by... Actually, no, sorry. His advantage is... No, yes, it has extended. Beg my incredible pardon.
Bit of a undercut for him. Fresh tyres. Got him up to temperature fairly quickly, it would appear, but Warwick will now have the benefit of tyres that are 1 lap fresher. Don't know that it'll make a huge difference, though.
I don't think so across the 11 laps we've got remaining. Dane Warren has extended his advantage to the better part of 18 seconds over Glenn Postlethwaite. So he's and this is the moment when you've got to look at your times and think, you know what, there's 11 laps left. I've not finished a race on the podium yet. Let's ease off a bit. You know, maybe sacrifice a bit of speed to get the car home. But he just doesn't seem to be able to do it. He's had a very hairy moment there, overtaking Dodger, lapping Dodger for the second time through the turn 11-12 complex, but luckily kept it out of the wall.
Well, just getting some news coming down on what happened to Stenny. Went off-road and came back in front of Will Devonish, causing them to have a collision. Apparently no damage to Will, who's still running in 8th place as it stands. Looks like the pit stops have all shaken out, because I don't think you can get this far into the race on a full tank. So that's, I guess that's good news for Will, that he hasn't got too much damage. Incidentally, I think his teammate Osrob is carrying a bit of damage, missing his bonnet, and running down there in 19th place, a lap down.
Speaking of Osrob, he is just ahead of the last man to pit, Cam Rutledge, who's come out in 20th position. As I say, the last man to pit, someone else has pit.
Maybe they pit again.
That is Dodger, in fact, so not sure if that really counts. Probably pitting for damage, possibly. I'm not entirely sure.
You're harsh, man. And, oh, who's that on the inside of turn 4? That's a blue car. Is that Cam? No, I think that's a claim bite.
Claim bites, yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's got it going again, so he's come a cropper, but he's back.
He is back, and I mean, he's in 22nd, which is second from last, which is certainly better than being last.
I'll tell you what, sorry to cut across you there, but Kurt Stenberg is closed in on Glenn Postlethwaite. That gap has come down remarkably quickly.
It has. It's down to, as they get past a claim bite, who thankfully gets out of the way.
You don't have to go on the gravel to do that. You can just get off the racing line. Anyway, he's...
Down to a second
Ooh!
is the gap.
Oh, Cam Rutledge off, and that nearly takes... he's got in between...
Oh, no.
Glenn Postlethwaite and Kurt Stenberg, but he nearly takes Glenn Postlethwaite out completely.
That was incredibly close, as we saw Dodger has a drive-through penalty, probably for disobeying the speed limit in the pit lane. So going bad to worse for Jack Daniels Racing. Definitely not good. The gap between Glenn Postlethwaite and Kurt Stenberg down to 0.6 of a second. Oof. So Kurt is, after these pit stops are shaken out, they didn't look like they were gaining on Glenn Postlethwaite hugely during the first stint, but he's put the hammer down after the pit stops and is beginning to climb over the back of that gearbox.
I'm keen to look at Dane Warren's lap times, because I feel like he's gained more than he should have through that pit stop phase. Did he maybe not change all his tyres?
Potentially. Could have just changed the... I guess you'd change the lefts around here, because most of the corners are right-hand turns.
Personal best lap for Kurt Stenberg on that previous lap, as Osrob comes into the pit lane, and I wonder if that's for damage, because we saw that he was missing his bonnet.
Further down the order, Nige, old mate Nige, has lost out to Coriot. I'm not sure if that was during the pit stops or on track, but Coriot has managed to get 9th position away from Nige. Nige doesn't appear to be giving it up though. He's still on the back of Corey.
He wouldn't give that one up for sheep stations. I'm looking forward to seeing how that battle transpires. Behind him, Jay Borg and Sean Allen still going at it, so They put a bit of gap between those two battles.
They have. There's what was originally one conjoined battle has been un-Siamesed. I think that's
Unconjoined.
That's correct doing
we
word.
don't call them Siamese anymore, do we?
No.
Also, isn't Siam Thailand now? I don't know. Thai twins?
Taiwanese twins sounds like a different.
Thailand. Anyway, let's dig ourselves out of this hole. And
Please,
Corey Ott.
hand me the shovel.
Well, Corey Ott's not been digging; he's been leaping. He's leapfrogged ahead of this four-car battle. So he was the one we saw closing in on the back of it. Now he's out the front of it as well. Don't worry about Dane Warren's tyres. He's just set the fastest lap of the race again.
A 151.9. That is incredible. I don't know. Again, that off switch. It hasn't stung him thus far, and we've got 8 laps to go. So hopefully he can keep this. If he maintains this pace, he hopefully maintains this consistency.
Dodges in to serve his pit lane speed penalty.
Oh, Kurt with a little tap there on Glenn Postlethwaite, I think, through turn 1. Glenn very wide on the exit of turn 2, and they're having to get past Steve Birchall, which certainly wouldn't be helping. Kurt doesn't manage to get a job. He has a job. Doesn't manage to get the job done down through turn 3.
Whoa, Glenn Postlethwaite is all over the place, sliding through. Looks fun, but it's going to be sweaty in the race seat of Glenn Postlethwaite. Kurt Stenberg's got a job to do here, as you said, and he's got to do that cleanly because he doesn't want to come under any more scrutiny from the stewards after we saw what looked like a bit of a bump on Thomas McMillan in race 1. He will be absolutely hanging to get this job done in a clean manner, and he'll know that he's on the broadcast right now probably because it's the closest battle, highest up the field. But where he is right now, a podium finish is very, very good for his championship. He's got to think championship with Jake Moloney out of the race. Dane Warren is not in the picture right now because, I mean, yes, he's winning the race, but he hasn't even finished higher than 5th prior to that.
No, indeed. So he will be hoping that he doesn't come unstuck.
4th,
Kurt Stenberg. Yes, no, fair enough. Kurt Stenberg will be just, I would imagine, thinking about the haul of points that he's going to be bringing in over Jake Moloney, with his championship rival having DNF'd out of this race.
Oh,
way
lag.
back. Oh, that was lag. Okay, thank God.
It might have been a bit of a bump, but yeah, it looked pretty lagacious. There's no dent on the front of that ZB though.
No, not at all. So looking good. 3 tenths, 2 tenths. It is that slipstream is plummeting that gap between the two of them. He's not going to manage to get it done through turn 1, but he's going to set up a go down into turn 3, I reckon. Glenn Postlethwaite again with a wide run through turn 2, just catches a bit of grass. That's not going to be helping his time. And Kurt just unable to have a dive down into turn 3, at least not safely.
Yeah, through this part though, Glenn is really, really struggling, and that must be immensely frustrating for Kurt because it's so difficult to pass. You kind of have to get up alongside at turn 3 and get them out of position. Then maybe you can go side by side through here, but oh, he's dicing with danger right now. Very, very late on the brakes.
Yeah, it's possible that Glenn didn't change all of his tyres, or perhaps he's just not looking after them as well. It appears like he's a lot more squirrely under steering than Kurt is behind him. Might just be a bit more experience on Kurt's side, or I'm not entirely sure, but regardless, he's still managing to keep Kurt behind him, which is no mean feat.
Well, Kurt potentially with a bit more experience in Automobilista, Glenn, I believe, coming from the iRacing side of things, and we've seen with people like Brenton Hobson in the Automobilista Australia Supercars Championship last year having trouble, and Lewis Wedding also with not changing their tyres. It's a very easy mistake to make.
It is, which sounds silly, but the pit menu interface for AMS isn't the most clear or helpful thing in the world. As they are.
That's all right. That's just a little bit of Morse code. Here I am. Did you get that? ... He's
definitely closer than he was this time last lap. That is under 2/10 now. He's going to have a go down into turn 1. No, he isn't. Thinks better of it.
This is the danger zone. This is where he got into the back of Thomas McMillan in race 1. Sorry to keep bringing this up, Kurt, but this is oh so important. Turn 3 is probably the best opportunity.
Here he goes. Nope, he's not going to do it. I thought he was close enough that time.
Someone recovering to the track there. Looks like Dodger. It is.
Yeah, it does appear to be Dodger, who is now 4 laps down, with a best lap of 2:07, which is...
that wouldn't have got him into the race.
No.
If he set that one. So presumably during the course of the week he's set a lap that's faster than that. Of course he's got damage at the moment, so one wouldn't expect him to be able to go faster than that with a wounded vehicle. This is the battle of the race we're looking at right now. Kurt Stenberg and Glenn Postlethwaite disputing second and third place. Dane Warren has gone to the front of the queue and checked out. He's already in the parking lot. These guys are still deciding whether they want full cream or light milk.
Yeah, no, he's Dane Warren. He got his Wheat Bix and his Paul's full cream milk, and he went through the self checkout and is out of the way. Glenn Postlethwaite and Kurt Stenberg are lined up behind an elderly lady who is telling the teller, who's currently slowly bagging her individual oranges.
Teller? Is she in a bank?
Not teller.
Cashier.
What's the term? Cashier. Do apologise.
Beg your pardon.
Telling her all about how how things used to be. You could buy a trip down to Rundle Mall with $1, and also buy yourself a donut and a ride on the pokies. A ride on the pokies. A good few goes on the pokies with $1 back in her day, and Kurt Stenberg and Glenn Postlethwaite are just sort of rolling their eyes and hoping that she'll get out of the way so they can get off up the road, but she just won't move.
When I was growing up, this was all paddocks. Well, actually,
exactly.
That's 6 months ago. This was all paddocks, as Albert Park undergoes quite a transformation every year to become the fantastic Grand Prix venue that it is, and host of the second round of the Supercars Championship. Very, very deep there for Glenn Postlethwaite. Nearly lets Kurt Stenberg alongside. Big moment on the curb. How did he hold on to that?
I don't know how he held on to it, but even more so, I don't know how he managed to keep ahead of Kurt through all that. He's managed to just position it so that Kurt didn't have a way through, which I imagine is hugely frustrating for Kurt Stenberg, who is all but bump drafting at this stage, under 2/10 separating them. And they were coming up to lap traffic as well. Termo in the Castrol Racing gets smartly out of the way and is an ultimate. Good work, excellent work there from Termo. So very, very close here between Kurt and Glenn, still going through fast turn 11 and 12. That is a braking zone you don't want to not anticipate.
Oh, here we go. This is a chance here for Kurt Stenberg. Turn 13. We've seen so many people not get the car pulled up. He's alongside, but he's not close enough. Postlethwaite was very good into there.
Absolutely, just confident, and but still left enough room if Kurt had tried to poke it up the inside that he wouldn't have been unsettled. So well done.
Oh, he's very, very late on the brakes there into the penultimate corner. Glenn Postlethwaite would have seen a rapidly approaching Trans-Tasman ZB in his rear vision mirror, but he's equal to the task right now. He's quite content. He's driving like a man with a lot of experience behind him.
Absolutely is, and the gap has actually increased over the last lap. With that, there's a little bit of drama there for Kurt coming out of turn 2, which wouldn't be helping. 4 laps to go in this race, Stairs. It feels like it's flown by a little bit.
Yeah, Dane Warren is probably not thinking so. He'll be hoping that his internet holds out, or whatever issues that beset him in the first few races don't occur. That's a bit wide there from Glenn Postlethwaite, but Kurt Stenberg's just a little bit too far back to take any advantage. Any move through this part of the racetrack is a very risky one, of course.
Aeroplane crash. Yeah, it's just
Tenerife.
Managing to... Sorry, what was that?
Tenerife. That's a very famous airplane crash. It was a big one. Beg your pardon. Go on.
Take your word for it. Glenn Postlethwaite just doing what he did last race, and he's not setting blistering times, but they're times that are enough to keep Kurt Stenberg behind him, and just managing to keep that car where he needs it to be to keep Kurt from getting past him, which is all the more impressive considering how squirrely the car seems to be. I'm not sure if it's his setup is just a lot more twitchy or something.
Had a big moment up ahead of them. There's a lot of I can't see who it was because they're off camera, but there was a lot of smoke being kicked up by someone appearing to have gone well wide. They've not affected this battle at all, so that's fine.
Yeah, I believe it was that was a huge puff of vape smoke from somebody's car, possibly Dodge's. As you say, luckily hasn't affected this.
Glenn Postlethwaite with his second place finish in race 1. He's putting himself in championship contention here because we do have drop rounds in this championship, so that's very important for people like Emily Jones and all the other drivers, Sam Blacklock, for example, Corey Preston, who aren't here tonight. They're allowed to drop their worst result, and so for those guys, missing a round isn't such a big deal. It means they can't have any bad rounds, really, if they want to be in championship contention, but you can come in from round 2 and still fight for the championship, and that's going to put Glenn Postlethwaite in a good position if he continues this sort of form when it comes to the crunch time at the end of the championship.
Yeah, definitely. With looking like 2 second position finishes, he's shaping up to be in Kurt Stenberg's shoes at the start of this round, which certainly aren't bad shoes. I'd say they're more Skechers than Big W sneakers, but
oh yeah, they squeeze and they slip and slide. Although speaking of slipping and sliding, we're seeing a lot of that.
We are. Kurt Stenberg is going. He's fanging it. I would say he seems to be a little bit sideways, a lot more than he was a few laps ago. He is right on. Oh, that was very close.
He's trying for an excellent exit out of turn 12 to give himself the chance here. He's going to send it if this gets down to the last lap and is as close as that. He wants to do it cleanly though. He knows how he's going to be on the broadcast. He's got to do this the right way. He's not going to do anything too stupid. He is driving like a man with the championship in mind. Oh, that's a bit of a move there. Just a wiggle under brakes. Dodger with a drive-through penalty. He's had a lot of tours of the pit lane tonight. He'll have another one for his troubles. This is very, very close. Kurt Stenberg, he's going to go for it.
He's been. He's going for it down into turn 1. He is alongside. He's going to get the job done, but will Glenn be able to hold on to it around the outside? Very good turn in there from Glenn. He's managed to hold on to it. Kurt with a better exit out of turn 2. Oh!
Glenn with a big wiggle there. That's going to allow Kurt Stenberg round the outside as they go down into turn 3. It's the inside, though, for Glenn Postlethwaite. That's so crucial. There's a little bit more drive on the outside, but Kurt Stenberg's just bumped out into the gravel just a little bit. They passed Dodger for what seems like the 23rd time. And, well, it's not, of course, because it's only, well, that'll be 5 laps now down. He's probably taken another drive-through penalty, as we saw before. Oh, this is a good battle. Glenn Postlethwaite hanging on by the skin of his teeth.
This is incredibly close. This is the definition, I believe, of a ding-dong battle. Just managing to hold onto it around the outside of turn 1 and then slower through turn 2, but managing to keep to the inside and knock. No, well, not actually physically knock, but Kurt Stenberg just went wide in turn 3, wasn't able to get onto the throttle as fast, and Glenn managed to pull ahead. So this is an absolutely ripping battle as Kurt takes an interesting line through turn 11 and 12 and has lost a lot of time as a result.
Yeah, I wonder if he's just overheated his tyres a wee bit. He's starting to move around a bit. He's been pushing really hard. Has he taken all of the life out of those tyres? And is Glenn Postlethwaite now possessing the cushion that he needs to get home without too much more trouble?
Well, Kurt hasn't managed to get the job done with a 10th gap between himself and Glenn Postlethwaite at the 2 major overtaking opportunities on this lap. So Dan Ackland with a drive-through penalty, and he has been running a comfortable 6th. So that will be very upsetting. I would assume be for track limit violations. Haven't seen him in the pits.
Oh, well, he'll want to serve that pit lane penalty, I think, rather than wait for the game to hand him the time penalty, given what we saw happen to Dane Warren in race 1, where he seemed to go a lap down.
Absolutely, yeah. Don't want that to happen. Kurt Stenberg hasn't managed to close that gap to Glenn Postlethwaite, so you know, barring any issues from Glenn with any damage or potentially crashes or anything like that, he's looking comfortable in that second position. Despite the cars sliding a bit underneath him.
You say that, but he had a big slide out of 6. But I wonder if Kurt Stenberg has the grip left to attack.
I was about to say, despite the car sliding underneath him, he seems composed. As I say that, he slid it a little bit too much, and Kurt has closed right back up on him. Still don't think it's going to be enough. He just hasn't been able to make the position on Glenn. Glenn's very good at defending, but looks of a lot of smoke ahead of him. Not sure who that was. As we're coming up to the end of this penultimate lap.
Big wiggle there for Glenn Postlethwaite out of turn 12. That may well give Kurt Stenberg a chance. This is the final lap and a half. The leaders just crossed the line to start the final lap of the race, and Kurt Stenberg so close, but not close enough.
Absolutely. He is. He looked like he was going to have a go down into turn 13, but I imagine if he's going to send it, it'll be on the last lap. He doesn't want to do. He wants to do this clean if he can. As you said, he knows he's going to be under the view of the stewards for an incident in race 1, and after dropping 8 positions in the first race due to penalties, he's not going to want to repeat that. He's not going to be able to have a go down into turn 1, but he is. Historically, Glenn has not gotten a good drive out of turn 2. Looks as if Kurt had a bad run through turn 1 as well, so it's come out about square. He's not going to be able to have a dive down into turn 3, I would expect, with the current gap. And indeed, he doesn't. Slots in behind. So turn 13, looking like his only chance for the rest of this lap and the rest of this race to make that second position, Stairs.
Exactly right. He's got to set that up. And just as the lag issues return for us, it seemed to have fixed itself for the previous 15 laps or so. It seems to have come back. Hopefully it holds off for the drivers themselves. The race leader, Dane Warren, coming out of turn 12 now. And just one sector remaining for him as we rejoin this battle for Glenn. We've got Dodger just ahead of them, going to be on the racing line if he doesn't get out of the way on the chicane, smoking like you wouldn't believe. That car's got to be having a meatball flag, surely. As someone else goes off, one of the Black Falcons, I think that was, at turn 13, just ahead of Dane Warren, so more action. Not really sure what's causing that. Huge lag issues again for the server to end off the night. Bit of a disappointing dampener on it, but take nothing away from Dane Warren. He's been threatening this sort of thing for a long time. 4 races in, he finally gets the race win that he richly deserves.
Absolutely, he is going to celebrate that one, I imagine. Kurt Stenberg just unable to get the job done. He did try to send it a little bit down at turn 13, but wasn't able to get the job done. Glenn Postlethwaite, barring an incredibly late overtake here from Kurt, which I don't want to rule out because he has got a bit of a run, but no, I think Glenn is going to hold on to it. He's going to hang on to second place. That's 2 second place finishes there for Glenn, and a very good little drift show there to celebrate.
I like that drive from Kurt, though. It was he pushed as hard as he possibly could without going over the line, and I think he'd be pretty pleased with 3rd place, and may well put him in the championship lead. I think very much it should do.
Colin Warwick coming home in 4th. So he was up there battling with Kurt for a while, but just seemed to drop off as Kurt got the carrot that was Glenn Postlethwaite in his vision. Brody Steen with a 5th place finish, so good work for Brody. Scott Nolan with a 6th, which is a bit more his speed. Race 1 was a little bit of an anomaly, I think. Corey Ott up the inside of Will Devonish around the last corner. Don't think he's going to be able to get the job done, although it is incredibly close. No, he isn't able to so Will Devonish just manages to hold on to that 7th position with Nigel Marneef. On your Nige, coming home in 9th position. So
top 10, that's good.
Top 10 from a 23rd he started, I think, 27th. So very good work there from Nige. And Sean Allen rounds out our top 10.
Well, that was a good race.
That was a bloody good race, Des. I would qualify that. Bit of a shame with the lag issues rearing their ugly head at the end, but it didn't seem to be as severe. They were still able to race each other, which was good to see. all of our runners finished now, except for Dodger, who DNF'd, I believe, on the very last lap after managing to get around 24 laps with that damaged, smoky car. Wasn't able to complete the race.
Ah, yes. Well, that's it's all experience, of course. Some people obviously have more experience than others, and this is all valuable experience. Couldn't think of really anything more to say, but well, congratulations to our top 3. Congratulations to our top 10. It was an interesting night. We've gone into it with Jake Moloney leading the championship jointly with Emily Jones, only 3 points ahead of Kurt Stenberg, but it appears as though he's going to give up that championship lead to Kurt Stenberg with the podium and a good recovery drive in race 1.
Yeah, definitely. Dane Warren finally bringing home one of the results that we know he's capable of. And Glenn Postlethwaite stamping his authority with a very good haul of points in second, both race 1 and race 2.
Well, the car's just coming into the pits now at the end of the session. We're going to take a quick break, and hopefully on the other side we should be able to bring you the top 3 from our races. Don't go anywhere.
Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us wherever you're watching around the country or indeed the world.
We're here in Kota,
Monaco, Sydney, Imola, Shanghai, Albert Park, Austria, Suzuka.
Down the inside of Pablo, and there's been contact.
Spun out already.
They've had the double stop.
Tyres that you could dig them up and look at them on the fossil records.
So,
it's Usain Bolts of hairpins.
It's missing a rear tyre. Welcome to the previous round recap brought to you by Apex Rear Wing. Qualifying for the first race in Adelaide was tightly contested and saw Jake Moloney steal pole position from Dane Warren in the final stages.
Will he jump up into pole position? Yes, he does by 3.5 hundredths of a second. Jake Moloney is your provisional pole sitter.
But race 1 itself turned into a mixture of demolition derby,
Huge crash, this is disastrous.
and orderly procession. Pit stops scattered the order, with much of the race being run behind the safety car.
That means we're about to go racing.
Controversy in the closing stages as early race leader Dane Warren was T-boned by Kurt Stenberg on the run up to turn 4.
And that is another safety car.
Staying out of trouble was Emily Jones, who drew first blood, leading home a TTR 1-2 ahead of Jake Moloney in third.
A very, very bizarre race. 3 fantastic restarts and she's your race winner.
The safety car was disabled for race 2, allowing a more natural race to develop. Dane Warren took pole in the shootout by a whopping 0.3 of a second.
He does it with the exact same time that got him through into the shootout.
Jake Moloney piled on the pressure, and while Warren was busy trying not to crash into a stricken backmarker, Moloney took the lead.
Oh, big moment there, so that's a change for the lead.
Warren fought back, and the race looked set to go to the line until a disastrous pit stop dropped him down the order.
Yeah, so everyone here forgetting that you can't drive through cars in the pit lane.
Moloney took a comfortable victory from Kurt Stenberg and race 1 winner Emily Jones.
Welcome back, everyone, to our coverage of the second round of the Automobilista Supercars Championship. We're lucky enough to have been joined by our Race 2 winner. Congratulations, of course, to our race winners for tonight, Jake Moloney and Dane Warren. Well, we'll turn our attention to Dane first up. Dane, it's you've shown this sort of pace all throughout the 4 races that we've had so far, but it all came together in race 2 tonight.
Yeah, went pretty well. Obviously, a bit of an interesting start with McMillan. I won't go too much into it, but unfortunate that he didn't complete the race, and obviously saw Moloney had a bit of a bad run further down, so it was a pretty good race overall, and good to finally get a win. Absolutely.
It was kind of a lonely old race once it all sort of split up. You mentioned that battle with McMillan at the start, but once that all sort of cleared off, you didn't really have to worry about too much else. Just the back markers potentially getting in the way.
Yeah, it was pretty easy. Obviously, a couple of interesting incidents with Dodger, I think. Just didn't see him behind him, and I accidentally ran him off. But that was good. Just head down, stay consistent, and just come home in one piece.
Perfect. Well, congratulations on getting your first win of the series, and here's to many more.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Perfect. Moving on, we've got Kurt Stenberg, and you've managed to recover from the starting a long way back in race 1 to get some points in race 1 after the grid drops, and then a great battle there at the end with Pete Postlethwaite. I knew I was going to say that at one stage. With of course, if I can just get it up, the second place man, Postlethwaite. With that battle for second and third, that was fantastic.
Yeah, that was an unreal battle. I'm sweating.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw you nearly got it done a few times, especially down there at turn 3, but just going a little bit deep. How did you see that?
I felt like I had better traction, but I just couldn't get a run to really do anything. And when I did, I was on the wrong side of the road, and yeah, I was trying to do things, but I don't know. I think we both had very similar pace. It was just when we were making mistakes that one was on the out. I was catching him, and he was pulling away a bit when I made a mistake. But no, good battle all around.
Fantastic. And Glenn Postlethwaite, as I can finally get over my brain fart from earlier before, you, I believe you're in the Discord as Posy, is that correct?
Yeah, that's me, mate.
There you go. 2 podiums. Great start to your Automobilista Supercars career.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was a pretty good night. Sort of didn't know what to expect. First race on Automobilista. Yeah, no, happy. The car was pretty good. Obviously, no pace for Dane. He's an absolute alien. But yeah, that last race, the battle with Kurt, was really good fun.
Absolutely, it looked like it. And, well, it was 2 very, very different races, but you've managed to get the same result in both.
Yeah, the first race I was just hanging on for dear life most of the time. Didn't really know what to expect, but yeah, I felt a bit more comfortable in the second one. And yeah, after that pit stop with Kurt on me the whole way and just pushing as hard as I could.
Yeah, it looked like you were both on the limit. With the pit stop, that added a bit of a different element to it for race 2.
Yeah, certainly. It's makes it interesting with you coming out of the pits with cold tyres and coming into lap traffic and all that. So it's difficult, that's for sure. But no, I enjoyed it.
Certainly. Well, congratulations again, double podium, and a fantastic way to start off. We wish you the best of luck in the next round.
Thank you very much.
Well, what did you make of the action tonight, Madbird?
Bloody marvellous. Stairs. Some good tight battles all up and down the field, especially in the midfield. Some really good close little battles for positions like 11th and such, which are good when the front sort of shakes itself out for a little bit, but always good to see a nice little battle for a podium position like we had at the end of race 2. Very good, respectful racing from all involved. So I loved it. I look forward to the future races.
Absolutely. Well, certainly can't wait to do it all over again. Just 2 weeks until the next round when the Automobilista Supercars Championship heads to Symmons Plains for round 3. As far as tonight goes, that's pretty much all the time we have. So thank you, Madbird, for joining me in commentary tonight.
Thank you for having me. Lovely to be back.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Bye for now.
See you later.